Yo, did you think you know? That's the goal, to see from a new degree and get the change your mind needs to find something new. Life suddenly is easy for many, but when a wall appears, sometimes up is all you see. So let 3D guide to the side, yo, where there's a door though. Just be careful on your way out, for the first step is a do-si-do. A little bit Linus with something different, it's almost like he's something else. And regardless of maybe, perhaps it was that missing piece you was needing. Maybe it was that simple message you was searching. Definitely it's just in different time for defraying a mental mind state, separating us from our own mental mind tank. Boom goes the blast of thought. Boom goes the last spark with part. Boom goes the mental mind tank. Don't your perspective hit on the way out. Don't let your directive stop you when you doubt. Don't let the dire detection stop you from being getting X-righted, so the photons are delighted. Don't hesitate so we can line up the hash rate. Let me surmise the tide, submit the rate, and reduce the face while we mine our major bags. Crypto technology like cryptographic money, while hashing your life into a set of QR. It doesn't matter, cause this was 3D changes perspectives. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a new roll of perspective.
Hey, I didn't even realize I had the outro going. It's longer than the intro. My bad. I was also messing with the model. I noticed my models froze as soon as I clicked go live. Oh, okay. Nice. Awesome. Well, welcome to the show, everybody. As odd as it is, I had the wrong one running, so it said the one. But, anyways, okay. I know. It's been a morning already, everybody. So let's say there almost always are varying perspectives about everything, especially constructs of stuff like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So today I want to look at the perspective of Bitcoin, and we're going to ask the question: is it FUD based? Now, however, unlike giving, like normally we go over like one person's perspective, and it's just a single like giant weird ass perspective or something. This time we're looking at multiple individual little perspectives. So we're going to look at this in a slightly different manner because, well, we're also going to be looking at Jeffrey Epstein involved with Bitcoin. That's actually what we're going to be looking at, but we're going to be doing it in a weird way. We're not just going to go look at all the files. We're actually going to use the files to debunk or to prove, depending if it's FUD or best, statements we find online. Now, we actually have had a base episode already. We have had someone with base tapes. So, if you know more takes that you want potentially have reviewed or whatever, please send them in, comment them below, say hello, let us know who, what, where, when, and what that take might be, because, well, you never know when you might just end up becoming a searchable government system like Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. So now, before we go any further, I do want to thank the network sponsorships and partnerships. I want to thank The Organized for teaming up with Bitcoin Live, Digital Broadcasting DB. There's a chance you could be watching here from there right now. What is up, Roadkill? Now, because Bitcoin Live DB and The Organized is a powerhouse combo, I see new heights for both organizations. Now, if you haven't checked it out, any of the deorganized, like early morning broadcasts and stacks and stuff like that, well, they be taking off. It seems to be getting bigger and bigger with every day. So go ahead and check them out. And pretty much anywhere you're watching this, except for Odyssey. If you're on Odyssey, I'm sorry. That's the only one I know they don't go to. But they pretty much go everywhere on the internet, including where Roadkill's out right now. So check them out every morning, every evening, see what they're doing. We will actually show something for them here in a minute. But now I got to thank the sponsor. So I actually have a little thingy for the sponsor because, why not, right? Okay, so I want to thank Shieldfolio for sponsoring today's episode from within a quantum bit, as well as the Bitcoin Live DB network. Now, if you haven't seen a Shieldfolio, well, they're like a little black book, which is made from stone paper. That means they're fade resistant, tear resistant, water resistant, and that means you know the secrets and info they store inside shield folio will last whatever you throw at it. I personally own a shield folio. I use it for everything from like website information, contacts, crypto keys, among anything and everything I don't want on the internet or my computer. And so these are like basically little black books that are pocket sized and ready to be by your side, regardless of your adventure in real life or online. Now, they do have other things and stuff with the same paper technology. It's really neat, it's really cool, and it actually is designed to last. You got a QR on your screen now. You can go ahead and scan that, go to their website, use the code BitcoinLive20, get 20% off your purchase today off of what you get in that store. Now, throughout today's episode, we're going to have this QR down in the bottom with that little lady freaking out. You can scan that throughout the episode, come back at any point in time, rewatch, and that will be there with the code BitcoinLive20 for you to get 20% off today. All right, I'm going to go into the actual thingy. Oh, wow. Already. That is awesome. So, again, thank you, Roadkill, for showing up. I'm super glad to see you come in, bro. Let me get this rolling. All right, and thank you again, Shilfilio, for sponsoring this episode. Well, I think we got to do this. All right. So, welcome into the photon of the greater fourth dimension quantum machine. We're gonna go ahead and this is how we do it. So let me show you. So I don't know, Roadkill, I don't know if you've been here for one of these episodes. I know you come in for like the game episodes. Awesome, love it. But we have this magic system. So, for example, this is the organized that people I was talking about earlier. All right, see that little QR? You can scan that QR and follow along. So something we noticed a long time ago, sometimes like we put all the links in the YouTube description, but the YouTube doesn't always keep the links. It kind of kills the links a lot of times because I put so many links. So we have this system so you can always follow along while you're watching. Anytime you want to come back, you always find where we were at. So like, for example, this is the Organized Media. They have all sorts of fun stuff going on. Very awesome. There's a chance you're watching this from you're watching this here from there right now. Okay. So now you know how the system works. I need to give you guys a free pre-search query. This is something I do every episode. Pre-search is a really awesome search engine system. I really love them. So today's free pre-search query is, what perspectives are people saying about Jeffrey Epstein had with cryptocurrency? Like always, I did not use this query in today's episode's research, but that doesn't mean we won't have any overlapping links. So if anything about today's episode does interest you, this free pre-search query should just basically help you find more information that you might like. Okay, so just reply after the show and scan the QR on your screen. You use your phone, QR reader, OCR, anything like that, and go ahead and jump down that rabbit hole. Your next availability. All right, so I got this thing that tells me. Hold on a second. That tells me we need to catch up. We need to have some catch. What is up, Bitcoin Live? Let's go. All right, so we need to have some catch up. Okay, so basically lately we've been doing FUD-based takes with Bitcoin. It's just been a thing. Like it's been neat, fun, and some people thought like we should like cover the Jeffrey Epstein files and such. Like there has been so much actually going on with the files that I thought today would be better to review the actual people's information, like people's actual takes involving Bitcoin with Jeffrey Epstein, and then using the actual files to disprove or prove it, whichever one it is, right? And this will actually, while we do this will actually show us how and what and why Jeffrey Epstein was involved with various Bitcoin companies or companies involving themselves with Bitcoin. That is right, Rosiv. We've been looking forward to today's episode. I have been planning. We started planning this episode I think like a month ago. Like, I've been given a ton of assistance. Like a lot of people have sent me links and stuff, and eventually I found the DOJ system, and that was the thing that just kind of broke me through all the problems. All right, so I am, yes, about to put you guys back in. We're about to go in. We're back, going back, going back. All right. All right, we're back. So, very first thing, okay? This is Simon. All right, we've reviewed Simon before and their base takes, I think, on the last episode. And this episode, I do want to kind of start with another base take. It seems to be like a thing, right? So, we're going to review just a couple minutes of this. It's not very long. There's just something very quick he's going to say. We want to hear what he has to say. Let's do it. It's not going to be very long. We got this.
Let's get started with part one. Was Bitcoin hijacked? And let's look at the infiltration operations and expose them for what they actually were. So to answer the question, spoiler alert, I'll just give you the answer right up front. Bitcoin wasn't hijacked, but it continues to have multiple hijack attempts at it. It has always been attempted to be hijacked. In fact, I think the original Bitcoin was a hijack of a project that was meant to be centralized, that wasn't meant to be open source, and was meant to be a central bank digital currency. So right from the beginning, Bitcoin was a hijack project. I personally believe it hijacked what was.
Okay. All right. So, you heard it there. It has had multiple hijacking attempts. And other than him actually believing that it's hijacked from the beginning, which there's a ton of people that think about, that's fine. That's a completely different story for a completely different topic. The whole point that he gets, this guy has been doing Bitcoin for a long time, and if you go over the last episode, you understand more why we're starting with this guy's take. So, there's something down below in his description. There's information in here. So if we just zoom in on here, this kind of gives you an idea of what exactly he's going to talk about, because he sits here for almost 3.5 hours, right? Was Bitcoin hijacked? Infiltration operations explained, right? So this basically is the part where we've gotten, like, most people will have the interest in, like, it's the really neat part, right? And then the Simon Dixon versus Steve Patterson, Bitcoin versus BCH inflation, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's a fun one to listen to, but it's more, like, for me, that was like a memory lane thing. So that's like a history type thing. So then you have part 3, Knots versus Bitcoin Core, something we've gone over before, but the BIP1110 or 110 wasn't here yet, and so we went over a different version a bit, but we went over core versus knots, right? We've done that. So something I will have to do eventually is something on BIP110, and that's fine. And that's because it's being used as a weapon lately. But now, really, the rest of the stuff doesn't really matter. So you're probably wondering, like, why are we starting off with this? Basically, I normally give the perspective up front for something, and these more common perspectives, I really need to give, like, I'm just trying to give you a helping hand. I'm trying to give you something up front to help you understand a little bit more what's going on, because you will, because, like, if I give you the take later, right? If I say, oh, well, what's going on is everyone thinks it's been hijacked, but it ain't hijacked. Everyone thinks Epstein was hijacking Bitcoin, and he never hijacked Bitcoin. Everyone thought Epstein was purchasing Bitcoin devs, and he did. But I'm actually going to talk about that specifically somewhere in the episode, more in detail about why that didn't work and why that didn't hijack Bitcoin. The reason is crazy. Yeah, like, when I saw the reason, even I was like, damn. So, anyways, if you agree with anything Simon said, this episode will basically not be much of an episode. You'll just be kind of sit back and be like, yep, and that's all you're gonna do. That's fine. Okay, but if you disagree with anything Simon says, then this episode is gonna be an absolutely crazy episode for you to watch. But it's still gonna be a good episode. Okay, so okay. We got. Let me give you that QR double check. Yeah, we got it. All right, so we're going to go on. So this is the next file. This is basically. Oh, wait. It says do not. I'm not supposed to respond. I'm supposed to read. So Bitcoin Foundation was backed by Epstein. Wait a minute. What? Now you know this is true. Is what he says. It's what he says. Now I'm not allowed to respond. It says do not respond. Apparently, I have the actual file. Yes, I do. Let me go back and make sure you have this. I don't even know if I clicked it. This potato ass is actually what it says. Okay, so we got the actual file. So this is the email chain. This is what is actually being said was Peggy was at the spring gala, because like you see, it's like a big long thing, right? So Peggy was at a spring gala, and people gave donations, or like people get money and donations and things in the name of charity. One of them being Michael Saylor gave money and for food for he gave money for food for the event, for an opportunity to be invited to the gala. He wanted a seat at the gala, so he donated like a shitload of money to the gala for food. And even says in here something that was the guy actually highlighted. By the way, Michael Saylor giving $25,000 for food and opportunity to get his name on invite and meet a hip group. Now, this Peggy lady thought Saylor was a complete creep. So now, basically, the tweet frames this like Jeffrey Epstein says this. Jeffrey Epstein is not saying this. This is going to Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. I think. Hold on. So even looking at the email, it's a reply of a reply. But all the replies are actually Peggy to Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein hasn't even responded. But this does show Jeffrey Epstein. This is like a super common thing in his file, in the emails to Jeffrey Epstein. Super common. But it does show basically Jeffrey Epstein, or we're gonna start calling him JE from now on. It's too long. So JE and people who ask JE like anything, right? They basically link their previous conversations with him, and it's probably done like a reminder. It's like, hey, this is whom I am. Don't forget who the last thing we talked about. This is about the last thing we talked about, so here's what it was. It seems to be something very common. It's like a reminder system. It's really weird. Really weird. Alright. Oh, wait. Oh, no, I don't know. As I say, I have a thing on the soundboard. Oh, wait. Let's try this one. It's weird. It's weird. Okay, so we're going to go to the next file. So I got another file. Okay, so go over. Now, I do remove these as we go, so I'm going to give you these QRs one more time. One last time. Boop. And even on this one with the Peggy lady, like the whole thing started with Epstein to Peggy saying, check with EVA tomorrow regarding your Robinhood ticket. If it's okay, don't sit at her table, yeah? And how did Saylor party go Wednesday? Okay, so he's asking about the Saylor party. Because they're going to be at a different event, and it's a Robinhood event, and they're talking about like it's a fundraiser. So that's how he's involved, right? I kind of forgot. I just remember, like my notes pointed out. So don't forget the bottom. And then she responds, right? And she's basically sick too. Blah blah blah. And then they're talking about some other people in here, and then she says, I'll message you again, and then this is her message back later. So, okay. And one of the things about the Canes is they kept talking about how Saylor was. Saylor kept saying that I have a yacht and I'm going to Canes. And basically, what they were trying to do was trying to get Saylor to talk about his business. They're trying to get him to talk business. He wouldn't talk business. That's why he's a creep. So you know. And then being Peggy. So now we have this file. So this is Epstein's actual response. Okay, so here is the file. As you see, it's just all the same stuff again. It's kind of formatted differently to the computer or whatever. So, can you give me a call? That's a hell of a response. Notice how Jeffrey Epstein never really bothers with capitals or anything, but he does include, that's a copy paste. Like all of this down here is copy paste of their conversation that she last sent him. This is something that like either like I hate to be honest, like going through this and seeing this, and I have seen like other files and things like we've done CIA files and stuff. I've gotten files on, I've gotten actual UFO information from the government about how the government made UFOs in the 50s and 60s to prove a possible concept. All made out of wood using diesel engines. Um, but they all kind of like do this weird thing where they'll copy paste that entire thing. Like they're just scroll and paste it in, and sometimes you'll see code and from the program they were using. It's weird, but it's something that high end people or what I'm going to call high wealth persons. It's a habit they tend to do. Include the previous message for context. Okay. So now we have enough information to be able to say that original tweet was FUD. The person that they're talking about, no, he didn't back that thing. Michael Saylor was backing the gala, completely different. It's the other way around, actually, technically, because Epstein got money from the gala. Okay, so I always do that, or else it sends me back to the new page, and I don't know, it's weird. So now we have this one. Got the QR on screen. By the way, this is Bitcoin. This is why Bitcoin is going down. The insiders already knew this will be released. Jeffrey Epstein is the Satoshi, allegedly. The Satoshi pseudonym is working perfect. Like our little digital gold mine is ready for the world. Funding secured. I notice how none of this makes any sense. Like, look at the header. Look at, like, out of all the other ones we're going to look at, you're going to see this doesn't look right. Oh, that was easy, right? So, it's FUD. But let me show you exactly how it is FUD. Well, we're going to start with this one. This is a website that shows it's fake. And but if we scroll it down in here, so they have these pictures. Let me get out of this little thing. Of course, the pictures didn't show. There we go. Go to this. There it is. Here we go. Yeah. They don't want ads. You don't want to see ads on my screen. Probably already got them on your screen from something else. Alright, so if we look down at these actual files, we'll see that, like, basically, Epstein would get stuff sent to him through his email in an automated fashion. Like RSS feeds and things like that. All different things. Right? So, I want that to be known now. Because we're going to look into that. Well, let me make sure you have this email. Okay. So, this is like, oh, wait, hold on. This is the email, where someone or something sent JE the Register the Register article. So the Register is a UK publication. And it even says the iPhone would create misspellings with word and thought substitution. Like you're gonna see this whole like the equal sign and various inconsistencies throughout, which makes searching some of these websites way more difficult. And then, like, when you actually copy that link, like, you notice how the link, like, interacts with my icon, my cursor. When you actually do anything to try to go there, let me see if I can get it to pop it in real fast. Half the time, it don't work. Like, this is the first time that clicking on it, okay, no, it don't work. And if, like, there's a lot of times where I would do this in the, up here, like, the various letters and symbols would be changed out. So even in like this system, they're using to automate the link system. Messes up. Like there's this shows why there's a lot of weird things in these emails. But hold on, I have actually hold on. Sorry about that. That came unexpected. I have actual notes on this one, so let me actually read my notes. Let me do my job for a second. Okay. Um, basically, someone at the register, blah blah blah. It even says the iPhone will create misspellings. So that means that something more, like this means something more than anything else in this actual email. The fact that there's substitution for thought and stuff. So think about it like this: like JE was known to use a BlackBerry, and um, which has like substitute characters built in. Like you can have it set up when you click a button or on the keypad, it actually does something else in the system. You get a different output, and this is basically something like that on the iPhone and automated. It's kind of weird. So the reason why this is like a bigger story than the fake one is because, well, this shows that higher wealth and larger connected individuals have systems to not use specific characters. It specifically messes up specific words. This was a time when everyone said your emails and text messages were being read, which we now know is true. So this kind of helps prove that really people in the know really knew that already. They were already using technology to try to prevent auto search word matching, like what we used to find this email. Didn't work. The ones they have, not so great. And this is another ones where they show like they're literally just like copying and pasting stuff in. You see the flag registers, email information, all sorts of weird shit. You shouldn't be there. Also, notice how like they always put the article tag. They have multiple article tags, right? They have two of them in the bottom right hand corner, and they lap. So you can see all of them at the same time. You can see how many times it's been edited, reviewed, things like that by looking at those numbers down there. Okay. So that kind of helps show you how. See how it says case number, blah blah blah. No, they don't do that. Okay, I don't think they've done stuff like that since the paper. Okay, guy. All right. So now I'm just giving you the links to these things. I don't think I was giving you the QRs. I can't remember. I'm just giving them to you because I always drop them down. We always lower them. Okay. Who knows? Maybe my actual V-Tour model will start working again. Who knows? Okay. So this is just basically a different email someone sent to Epstein. And you see what it says. World's first now currency, a complete valueless currency. Okay. For some background, SEC action Sand against Sand Hill prompted all this. I recommend this article. So basically, people are saying there might be money potential made here. That's what they're saying. So it took a little bit of digging, but we got it. They weren't joking. This is 2015. I do and don't remember this at the same time. I remember stuff like this coming out, these joke articles and stuff. I don't remember a real one coming out of it. This one did. Alright, so here's the post. It's pretty obvious that this is more of a meme post of them just trying to raise money of some kind. And when publications, like 2015 publications would act like this in some manner, like you would get joke articles and stuff. And it kind of, back then, that was considered funny. But this, at the same time, was a very serious moment where they were needing money. They were trying to actually raise funds for things because they were, I think, being sued by the SEC or something like that. Or being looked at by the SEC. I can't remember what the actual detail of that part is. It doesn't matter. Alright? It just shows that, like, Jeffrey Epstein was being sent things, even odd things. So that's kind of, like, outside his control, right? Being sent all this weird shit, whatever. But it's almost always about money, wealth, increasing potential. Almost always. Like, I've gone through a lot of his files, and trust me, there's a ton of personal files. There's so much more. I mean, like, even in the personal files, they're talking about making money. Right? It's all about the money. Okay? Jay and his orbiters only seem interested in obtaining more money. I want that to be a very clear fact of information. It's kind of like the important thing to notice. JE was like a tinfoil hat type person. He was scared about things. Everything written at least to him was being read and spied on. And JE and his orders pretty much stay focused on that money and wealth things. And they probably knew their emails were being looked at and stuff. And they still just like hyper focused on this. It's a pattern that he has. It's like a recognizable pattern, right? So I got the thing working right. Okay. All right. Now, well, I'm not the model, but the thing in front of me, browser. So, all right. So no way, Satoshi Nakamoto told Jeff Epstein to go fuck himself, man. All right. So here we go. Now this looks a little bit more whatever. I'm not reading the thing down below because, just the general setup to this more correct. Still wrong. There's a lot of inconsistencies in the header and stuff, and there's no page break and things like that. No lines, differencing in font size and type and all this other little thing. Okay, deal Satoshi. I would be delighted if you joined me in my private island for a discussion. Now, okay, going through these files, I don't think I ever saw Epstein say the phrase private island for discussion. The amount of times I saw, we need a discussion on this, something like that, or this is in discussion. We will discuss this. This is for discussion. That's how they would always use the word discussion. I never saw them say things like private island and discussion in the same sentence, or maybe in the same sentence, but never in the same context. And if anything, the things that would be referenced, it's the time I had. 99% of the time, they will say things like the time I had, and that means on your island. And other times they'll say parties, whatever, and those sometimes happen in actual places outside of his island. So if you see here, blah blah blah, Jeffrey. So I have that dear Joffrey or Jeffy. My bad. It's hard for me to say that for some reason. I have the dear Jeffy thing. So this is the only file that came up the search system with this dear Jeffy. I'm away and just shattered my iPhone. It fell 15 feet. So we'll have to get a new one. But I'm back. I just wanted you to know in case you try to reach me. I can check emails till then, but that's it. Picked this picture up below of you, Jeffrey surfing the ground. Hope you're having fun and happy. Blah blah blah. Now, see, got that little thing down there. All right. Hold on, I lost my place. Okay, yeah. So, I do find it strange. It includes a creepy picture of someone crowd surfing on children of all ethnic colors. In case you guys forget where this came from, was a Yahoo thing. This was a Yahoo banner. That was the thing I was afraid about earlier. My bad. I didn't click a button before I clicked a button. Okay. Wait a minute. Okay. All right. I was like, wait a minute. Wait, I'm supposed to be looking at a tweet right now. Okay, there's the tweet. All right. So it's pretty easy to say that dear Jeffrey, that Satoshi Nakamoto was never invited to the island, and blah blah blah. That never happened. Okay, that's fun. And we're looking at this acquired savant. Excuse me, I'm drinking some coffee, but I guess he's an acquired taste, is what he's saying. All right, so this tweet is insanely misleading. Let's read it. I told you all, 31 December 2022, Gary Gensler was directed to Epstein and Assange to go after Ripple and XRP. Meanwhile, with Bitcoin Foundation was backed by Epstein. No, it's true. He has the word Ripple highlighted. this. Okay, let me say this now. This is FUD. This tweet is definitely FUD. So to note, JE was involved in seed rounds. I'm going to go over a lot of that. We're about to do that now. This is like going to give us the opportunity to really look into how and why was Jeffrey Epstein actually involved in various cryptocurrencies. But technically, it's the companies around them. I'll show you this. So anyways, basically this he was only involved in stuff with money-making opportunities that had something to offer, not actually having to do anything with backing the foundation and things, but gaining from their money raisings instead. So did you think, like, when a lot of those tech companies are doing IPOs and all those like cryptocurrency related companies are doing their things, that like 6 years ago or so, they thought that was all for no. You thought that was all for no reason. You thought it was coincidental. Everybody had the same thought at the same time. Nah, everybody was raising money for Epstein. Like, I'll show you, and we'll explain why. It's kind of weird. Not really. It makes sense when you look at it. All right. So, it basically was to make politicians and their worker bees like JE to get the cicadas to pay in to things for their money to be made. So they were basically able to extract money out of seed fundraiser things. Okay. Now, let's look into it. Alright, let's look into it, guys. Alright, so this, I believe, is the actual tweet. Yes, this is the actual, no, this is the actual email in the tweet. It's from Austin Hill to JE and Jochi, and this is kind of the email that made people, think JE was backing Blockstream. And in this email, Austin is being told by co-founders to cut JE and Jochi, and that is what prompted this email. So basically, it says here, I'm not sure what the relationship with Jed and the team are. I obviously know some of the players, but this is a problem for us. Would you please give me a call? I can explain some of the issues, but basically, I've been asked by the co-founders to reduce your take and your allocation away. I mean, to reduce or take your allocation away. Like they were cutting them out. That's really what it is. Okay. Ripple and Jed's new Stellar are bad for the ecosystems, and we're building, and it does our company damage to have investors who are backing two horses in the same race. Fair discuss more. Best Austin. So basically, he's saying, look, Stellar is a direct competitor to us, and we can't have you backing us and them at the same time. Nothing special there. Nothing special there. And if we go down, it's been edited a couple times. Okay. So, I have Jochi's actual response. Thanks for the call, Austin. Read Jeffrey. I think we're synced and okay. I've got some follow up to sync up with Stellar and Blockstream. Because, yes, Reed, I forget his last name, was linked in as a CC in the previous tweet, in the previous email. I left it up. Reed Hoffman. So, that. Okay. And if you look, we have. Oh, yeah. I could have just looked right here. It's right there. Okay. So, thank you, Rose. If it gets interesting near the middle, I think probably the best. So but like what I got next is basically I missed a message somewhere in the chain. If we look, there's the original, and then I guess I should call him, which was from Jochi. And then Josh's replying again, and he was like, "Yes, I wasn't anticipating the negative reaction. I'll call him too." Um, when this is to Jochi, um, from Reed. So looks like he's talking directly to Reed. So he's asking, Jochi's asking Reed, should I call him? And Reed's replying saying yes, and I should call him too. Okay. So now we have this one. This again. This is Jochi. You'll see him Joy as it up there the most time, but it's Jochi. I'm probably still saying it wrong, but I don't want to say Joy, because I think I'm saying that one wrong too. I think it might be like Joe, but I'm not for sure. So Jochi, this is Jochi talking to Reed. I'm thinking of calling him today. Let me know if you've talked to Reed. That's the part makes no sense. Okay, from Jochi to Reed. Let me know if you talk to Reed. Oh wait, I'm just now realizing it's the word him. Let me know if you talk to him. Okay, now I get it. All right, my bad. I missed the word. My dyslexia got me. My bad. And if we look, it still has that like should I call him thing. Okay, so this was all about the money. Like this was so important. They started immediately like stacking emails on top of each other with each other very quickly. Like I'm going through this slowly, but it was actually a very like like this was probably one of those things where one of these three people at all points in time were probably like watching their phone for that email. You know what I mean? Like they were probably heavily waiting. Okay. So this is still the same email thread. Okay. I couldn't get a single image of all of them put together. That doesn't exist. So we're going through them. Okay. Okay, well, hold a minute. I just realized I have notes from the previous one that I didn't see. Um, Austin emails JE and Joey for both their investments to be cut. Jochi responds a bunch of times, and even to his own responses, and Jochi responds like that too. Um, so they're talking to a group which involves Reid Hoffman, Joichi Ito, Austin, and JE himself. But only sometimes is Austin a part of the group, and there are times where we'll have other people who seem not to need, who are not a part of the conversation. There's other times like other people get involved. So now we can see basically this is Je talking. This one right here in front of us is Je talking to Jochi again. As you know, I don't trust Austin. What? Jay don't trust Austin, but yet was willing to still invest in that business. It's fucking crazy. It kind of shows that like trust, like, and care about another individual is not the thing driving them. It's really the money. Here is Jeffrey again to Jochi. It seems like he's impatient. This is what this shows. Impatience. He's like, hey, where are you? I need to know this now. Okay, hold on a second. I gotta sync up in my notes. Yeah. Okay. So I don't have anything. Yeah. So this is the one with the big note. This is presumably not from Austin. Like it says from blank, right? Um, like someone else was talking to inform JE about the time JE gave him or them. But basically, like, it's confusing. Like, Austin had someone inform JE something, or someone was ratting on Austin. That's probably the more likely scenario, because it just says below from Austin, and it does say in the message, please let Jeffrey know. Abby Slayton. Oh, I think that's, I don't remember. Toby or Tabby, I don't know. Slayton made one of the Bitcoin wizards, one of the Blockstream co-founders. Dyed his hair blue upon graduation from the university. The butt of his jokes are like all night, and that was the butt of his jokes all night, though, is that he had blue hair. And the Blockstream crew were entertained by Slayton and the use of our co-founder as the butt of his jokes. It's classic. I hope the team, JE team, are all well, and pass him on my best wishes. And then you can see they're talking about how they're going to meet with the Bitcoin Wizard at some other point in time, his information, and again, gives key data about the email. And it's got Blockstream involved. Yeah. So now Blockstream is definitely involved, right? So now, this one, oh, I had more notes on it and I just passed up. You notice how Austin responded? Is that? Yeah, okay. I had to make sure I'm on the right spot to be talking. Okay, so Austin responded, right? And what he was saying was like, time we had, it was great, and but these, like, basically these money hungry people will take your money, give you some wine and dine, and then they want you to give these people more money. So basically, they took money from the guy and they gave him an experience. And like, hence, this is why JE's email actually, is Jeffrey Epstein Entertainment Vacations, aka JEE Vacations. So JE and his cohorts are not paying money to give these people these experiences, but they are getting money and wealth for and from it at the same time. It's kind of how their business model works. You build up enough services so that way you don't have to pay, but you can just create experiences you call vacations, and then other people give you wealth in return for free entertainment vacations. Of course, no one talks about the money and when the vacations are involved. Like, it's almost like an unspoken rule, the separation of money, wealth, and fun. All three are separate. Or my thing actually says all three are separate talk. And that's kind of important. So, now, this one involves... At first, I didn't think this email had anything to do with anything. But then, like, I realized not only is this like Austin, again, directly emailing again, but, like, directly emailing JE, but it's about a new money wealth making opportunity after the other one. Like, this is like a year after he had to tell JE, yeah, bro, we're cutting you down or cutting you out. What the fuck? So that's the connection of Austin to JE. JE gets wealth out of money raising systems. He extracts wealth from the fundraisers. So other people will connect JE so they can get a kickback, either as a new experience, aka the entertainment vacations, or directly wealth, like we're gonna see with Yoshi. Okay. All right. So let me get synced up on my notes. So this is JE's only response, and it's of course. And if we look, he's responding to Jeffrey. Hope you're well. I'm not sure if you know Blythe Mazars or saw her recent career move. And gives a link for context. A large part of what we're doing with Blockstream is helping companies issue assets on the blockchain, help them sell it, blah, blah, blah. as long as it's something that her new company is approaching. Would you be willing to introduce us? That would be very much appreciated. So keep in mind, Austin is asking to be introduced because he sees, look, something that we could be involved with, something our company could be involved with, and he's probably thinking, we could make money off of this. They may make money off this. You might make money off of this. Connect me together. You could make some money off of this. So it's like, okay, all right. A year later, and Jeffrey responds with, of course. He's actually technically answering all three questions at the same time. He's saying, yeah, I know him. Yeah, I saw that, and yeah, I'll get you connected, bro, because I want to make that money too. And there's, okay. So this one is actually now back in time. This is back to 2014, kind of where we started. Okay, we're going back. And this is actually a message about stuff we already saw, but couldn't read it all. This kind of opens up some more doors. Okay, and this kind of shows you, like, with the Epstein files, you'll get the same file over and over and over and over. You'll get the file from each individual, person's perspective, how they would have saw this file. And they're different. They're not all the same. I mean, they're the same file, but they're not all the same. Notice the headers. Notice the divider line. Notice these little differences. Even though the email is set up different, it's a different type of device. So, thanks. The show was great. We've seen it twice. Please let JE know that Bobby Slayton made one of our the Bitcoin Wizards, co-founder, who dyed his hair blue, one graduate from the university, the butt of all of his jokes, all that. And the Blockstream crew were real entertained by Slayton. Use of our co-founder as the butt of his jokes. It's classic. So, like, makes a lot more sense now, right? And it says, sent from one of my many test mobile devices while on the go, changing the world. So my apologies for the typos. Whoa. Nice. Okay. Let me sync up my notes. Okay. So this is now back to more current. The only point of showing the whole thing back in time, it just shows that entire message and allows you to read it all. And it pointed out at the end that, like, these people don't even use, like, the same device all the time. They're just, like, flip-flopping, swapping devices. They're probably not even using a device for very long at any point in time. And that kind of just shows that whole, like, mentality of all these people are tinfoil hat people. Like, all of them, bro. Okay. Back to this one right here in front of me. We're back in current times. This is after Austin is considered untrustworthy. And that was the other thing. Like, the first one was Austin was trustworthy back then. This one is now Austin is not trustworthy again because Austin became untrustworthy sometime around the time frame that he had to cut JE out of an investment scenario. And I have the reason why. I know exactly why they said we need to reduce or cut you. And you're gonna be like, what? When I show you. Hold on. Let me get back on track. So, Austin again talking to JE directly. This is pointing out they had regular meets, and this points out they had regular meets for discussions and fun. Always differently, by the way. So I hope you're well. My apologies for interrupting, and what I'm sure is a crazy media storm for you and your team. I will be in New York next week. I would always appreciate your advice and counsel on a few things, both business and Bitcoin, personal and esoteric mind games that we play. Now, I want to point out those are 4 things: business, one thing; Bitcoin, another thing. Now, this next thing is technically one thing: personal and esoteric. It's one set, and then the mind games we play that is actually a second set. And it's kind of important because the personal and esoteric mind games that we play all go together. It's basically showing that they have personal, like, I don't have a note for this. This is off the top of my head, and the top of my head is saying, um, but basically, like, um, it's like they have insider type things they do with each other, right? And he's kind of pointing out that they are doing stuff that's not normal in some way. Esoteric is, like I actually study esotericism. It's like it's like the history of things. It's like the history of religion and the history of where things came from in those ancient times and those thought patterns and how all that comes to be to what now, right? So it really points out they have regular meetings technically, even after Austin is considered untrustworthy. So now back to what he's saying. Should you have time for me, I think think it appropriate for a visit, I would welcome a chance to drop in. Respectfully yours. Now they're talking about most likely Jay had a um, my bad. He had like an apartment or something in New York, a real big one or whatever, really fancy. A lot of people liked it. I think there were pictures with Hillary Clinton inside of a golden robe inside there, that the New York estate or apartment. And then you see here, respectfully yours and best. So he's trying to butter up J.E. We look down at the bottom. P.S. I think it's a good time to visit Andrew Layton on spread some knowledge. He's basically like giving that worm on a string. Hey, I think we got more information. We should be warned. I may bring Bitcoin Bell, who is an anarchist, who was camping with Occupy New York. That sad part is I remember that. I think Sound Genie was there, and like I didn't know he was there at the time, but like he sold NFTs with about it and stuff, and I couldn't go, but I watched the whole thing, and I was like, after the ending of that, I was like, well, I'm super glad I didn't show up. Goddamn. They destroyed everybody's shit. But back to here, don't comment on the email threads. Letting Jetty play mind tricks with you only leads to from Bobby Slam Creek comedy show. So he's then referring back to how something positive between the two. And so it's like it's something positive between the two. It is referring back to those Jedi mind tricks things they play with each other. It really is, and that whole thing on the bottom. So that's like his Austin Hill block stream in this bottom part about the whole blah blah blah. Sorry about that. That's like a automated signature. Okay, but it just like he already. I think at this point Austin knows he's not considered trustworthy, or he knows something. The emails is completely different. Yeah, these are a year apart. First one was brief and simple and to the point. This one, like the previous one, now this one is like complex and layered, and he has multiple signatures in here. Like he went like it put in this automated signature, and then he went through and put in best at Austin Hill at Blockstream. Because after he put in like this PS and note to self. That's fucking crazy. Do I have notes on this one? No, I already read it. Okay. So at some point you're wondering, who is Austin Hill? Or at least I was. I didn't actually know who Austin Hill was. This is whom Austin Hill is. Because at the point, like he known as a member of Blockstream Chairs is all I knew. He's actually he's really big in tech. He helped Canada get their first ISP. He helped create zero knowledge proof technology, and he's a co-founded Blockstream, where he helps raise capital. He's a capital fundraiser person. It's starting to make sense why J.E. keeps talking to this guy. This guy raises funds for businesses in the same types of fields that JE already fucks with. It's all about that money. Now, this is JE to Jeremy Rubin. And if we look down, it's not the exact same conversation. But we do see, like, they're talking about raising money, and they're trying to find safe ways to do it. They want to make sure they do it without Bitcoin crashing on them. I don't want to know about the ethics. Well, like, basically, one person is basically saying, "Yeah, the ethics is going to be great." Jeremy Rubin said that. And then Epstein was like, "The deal is to pump the currency, but it's dangerous." Like, basically saying their deal, this is what they're going to do. They're going to pump it, and it's dangerous. And then Rubin was like, "Yeah, there's always gray area between pump and development." And the theory of blockchain is kind of like, it's kind of like a bet. Your business model is largely appreciated on the price of Bitcoin. It's less marketing and more like legitimacy improvement through fundamentals. I don't discuss back for these reasons. I've notified the team, and we're not moving forward. It'd be interesting to figure out if there was a way to structure a company to not have this concern. If the coins are locked up for 10 years on a non-fundamental base pump, it would not work. I think this is why blockchain gets away with a very long horizon. So, like, these are very important people. These are some tops, heads of business, and their entire business model, like, they don't have a business. They have a business that makes money, right? Right? Like, it's a business. It makes money. Understood. But now keep in mind, the owner of this business isn't even looking at the business as it provides a service or something. No. Its model is based on how it received funds and how this business can hold those funds for an extrapolated amount of time that would allow for an equal or greater extrapolation of wealth to then do something with those funds, to use that extrapolated wealth as if it was real. Like, they don't even make these businesses. They're like, all right, we're going to accept Bitcoin. Okay. And Bitcoin goes up in value. That's fine. We can extrapolate wealth out of that. Well, hell now, it dumps. It goes down. Well, how can we extrapolate the wealth out of that? And basically, this guy is like, if we could find a way to just remove the whole Bitcoin price part out of this, would be great. One of the things to make that happen is not having coins locked up for 10 years. Because remember, like, a long time ago, when 2013, 2017, companies were really going into Bitcoin, they were actually legitimate. And that's one of the things he's pointing out. This other business that they're talking about, it's more legitimate because it's directly related to the value of Bitcoin. Their entire business model is based on Bitcoin value go up, we get the funds out of that. We can use the actual coin, and we can get note leverage on it, so we can get loans and other things to get real money without removing our coins. So as those coins go up in value, we can get more of these notes, and we just pay off the old ones with the new ones. We do this loop process, and we build up value very quickly, very easily, regardless of what the customer actually does, regardless of the service, regardless of everything. Strictly on the fact that they have a business where people show up and give them money, and that money is Bitcoin. That is where the wealth is considered for these head cryptocurrency or cryptocurrency related businesses. That's what Jeffrey is involved in. He's involved in figuring out how to extract wealth regardless of the situation. All right. And then now Epstein is asking Rubin, is it safe unless it makes money? I mean, it is safe unless it makes money. He's asking this as a question. And that's the question that he's technically asking is, I need further context on this. It'd be a figure out if there's a way to structure a company to not have this concern. The concern being their business model is largely based around the appreciation in Bitcoin price. And he's saying, well, does it need to be safe? And if it makes money, does that disregard that safety? Because like earlier, it started off like safety, like there needs to be a safe way, blah blah blah. That was one of the starting things. Dead honest. So now Jeffrey Epstein is basically saying, how much does that safety really matter to you? That's really what he's asking you. Asking this person, Jeffrey Rubin. How much does that safety actually matter to you? Because if it makes money, you're going to risk it. Showing, and they've even pointed out earlier, pumping the coin is dangerous. Shows you his technique. I'll get people in that coin, motherfucker. We'll dump that price so high, bro. We just go ahead and go in there and you pull that money right on out. We just do it in a way where we won't even notice because you just pull it out a little bit. You got that business, you got all these other things, we got other things you got to pay. So you just can pull it down. I'm an investor in the business, so we got to get that share. We got to get that kind of terms, and that, that would be Jeffrey Epstein explaining to him the business model, right? Yeah, I'll get a lot of people come in, we'll put money in, we'll pump the price, and then as the price is pumping, you'll pull little bits out here and there, which are actually large lump sums of wealth, while getting, loans and other things to pay us off. You're going to send us some Bitcoin and stuff because we're like investors in the system and business and blah, blah, blah. You have to pay us out. And it gives reason behind the thing. It's crazy, right? All right. So now, sync up on my notes. So this is, again, back in 2014. This kind of shows you how, okay, we already showed you guys, like, how different Austin spoke to Jeffrey from when Austin didn't know he was untrustworthy versus when Austin knew he was untrustworthy, right? Now we're going to go back in time again. And this kind of shows you just like how Blockstream involvement was all about the money. Okay, so this is Hammy Hill to J.E. and Jochi. And this, which was this email, it was sent from, okay, hold on. It was easy to see that J.E. and Jochi entered like a $50,000 investment for seed fundraising. Reed and the person who comes into play 4 years after this instructs Hammy to increase J.E. and Jochi to $500K from $50K. So, and in the context, like, we have to give everyone else a haircut to make room for this. Says that J.E. and Jochi didn't insert more wealth, but it will be accounted for having put in more wealth. But this helps explain why later in the next investment's not given. Like this explains why later they say we have to cut you down or cut you out. Someone figured out they only put $50K in, right? These two people as a single investor group put in $50K. We've been putting on the books they gave us $500K, and they've been getting paid out regularly as if they put in the $500K. That's a huge difference. It's like this, yes. I too would like a $10K on my expected return, as if I put in $10K more than what I actually put in. There's a chance Jochi put in the full capital for both J.E. and Jochi. This is why they're both being talked to as a single entity. So then J.E. and Jochi gets a return after presumably J.E. pushed someone or Reed to increase the this tag team's base investment by 10x. Jochi put in $50K, but gets paid back as if he was put in $250K because the other $250K goes to J.E. This is just about extracting wealth because of the seed raising. So the seed raising was done a long time ago too, right? this is back in time when the seed fundraiser wasn't completely done, and they were getting so close to being done. They were like, "We'll give these guys 10K more on their investment, even though they didn't give us the money. Put it on there because they were over collateralized. They needed to make it look more legitimate, and that's the thing. They needed to make this seed raising fund raiser whatever look more legitimate because they were over collateralized. So they just handed money to people. So most likely JE and Jochi was getting a monthly payout or a quarterly or something like that for what their investment made them that month or whatever, right? So then in a few years they get bought out at full value. They get cut out. Most likely still over that 50K initial input. Even if it wasn't the full 500,000 or whatever, don't matter. It's still over the 50. Or like they've already received more than the 50K initial input, most likely, and then they're gonna get at least 50K back. Jochi gets his money back. They made a huge off of backs of others making a different venture business a shitload of money and wealth at the same time. Like basically, these two people made a lot of money, giving the opportunity for this business to make a lot of money. Dead serious. And if we actually look on the thing, it says, "Hey, Joy and Jeffy, we're down to the wire and they're closing this round. We're 10K oversubscribed on an 18 million seed run. And Reed at the last minute told us to bump your allocation from 50K to 500K. This is causing no small amount of headache. So this wasn't even easy for them to do. And I respect you both and have learned so much from you in our discussions. So we will have everyone else have a haircut to make room." So like this is a direct response informing like these people basically like Jeffrey, and they're basically saying, "Hey Jeffrey, these discussions that we've had, so great. I'm willing to do this for you. I'm willing to give everyone else a little bit less to ensure you get yours." That means the money ain't coming out of nowhere, and they know it ain't coming out of nowhere. Damn. And it says, "My investment in your deal will be made through Joy Investment Co. When do you extract, or when do you expect papers?" My bad. Just read. And that was Jeffrey directly talking to him. And this just points out, this points out that most likely Joe put in all the money. He handled it. He did it all, and then he basically decided what JE got out of it. It's crazy. Very good context, though. Very good context. I can move on. Okay. This is the meaty bits right here, baby. Meaty bits. Okay. So now Jochi is responding and informing everyone, and by this time it's a much larger list, as you can see, and including like Dr. Adam Beck. It's one of the people on the list, and basically this is crazy embezzlement. It's so rampant. They just email threads of the crime proof and call it investment, and it's okay. Absolutely okay. Sandy and Jeremy are doing the legal paperwork on our end, adding them to the thread. And this goes back to, we're down to the wire. We got to do some haircuts. All about the money, getting the money out. What this is about. Okay. So this one, I think this one was like important to show that like JE had many people working in the same organization to keep ties on everyone, in some manner. So here's Francesca Hull. How are you? Hope things are fabulous in New York City. I'm reaching out because Austin, Hammy, and Adam don't seem to have any kind of contact information with Jeffrey Konzenberg. Weird. Why would you call JE this? No, she don't. Because look later. Austin had mentioned that the introduction came from JE, so I was wondering if it's possible to get the info. So this person is casually contacting Leslie Groff, like, hey, do you think JE got this data? Do you think I can get the number to this Jeffrey Katzenberg? Assistant Calendar Queen and Miss Wolf to the Blockstream team. Crazy. Okay. So this is Brock Pierce responding to JE after JE asked Brock if it was okay because he had not responded back to some other email. I think this shows how many people talking to JE only talks about the money, investing and such. Like if it isn't personal, business, and the business is all about the money. That's what I'm trying to get at. When he talks business, it's money and that's it. Okay? Discussions is considered something different. But they're all involved. Alright, so let me get back to my note. No. Wait, okay. Investing and such. Okay. So this is all business, obviously. They call each other friends and such for public appearances, presumably. So here, sorry, I met up with Coinbase twice. Okay, so this is Brock to Jeffrey. Just kind of telling them what's going on. Companies steadily growing in every market, blah, blah, blah. They expand new markets. Bitcoin is in a bit of a bear market. But the blockchain is rocking. So your investment in Blockstream is doing well. They're getting close to closing on a 50 million financial on a 200 million per CAD, not confidential. So it's up to about 4x. I have another two companies that might be worth looking at. One is closing in on 10 million financial, but possibly the most interesting company. And I've seen yet the other is Itbit. Blythe Masters is also closing the deal for digital asset holdings, but I haven't gotten myself into that one yet. And then RBS just verbally commented to coming into my fund, so that closes the mid-October, and I can start closing a number of strategies. And the co-invest chain capital. Weird. See it like that. So you see here, Jeffrey was like, you have not responded. Are you okay? Yeah. You didn't think Brock Pierce talked like that. Yeah. They're literally like, yeah, we're going in. They're getting ready to close. We want to give them money, so we give money. We want to make that money. Yeah, that's really how it is. It's all about the money. Sorry. Okay. So here's proof of how these advisory things kind of happen. People have pitch decks emailed to them. They forward the thread to JE and say, please advise. Like, please advise, thank you. Richard Kahn to JE. And there's his information. He sent his own. Jeremy Rubin said, just checking in here. Let me know if there's any information. And Jeremy Rubin also wrote, before that, hi Richard, attached a pitch deck from them plus the proposed budget. Below are some of my notes. Thanks. Name. And then there's the stuff, 3 million for 30%. Standard purchasing investments, right? Standard pitch deck. Like, it's super basic, super standard, like nothing different, like perfect. Strategic needs. They want a technical guidance, hiring support, and some warm intros from me. May participate in the engineering work for fun and anyways. As yet, they're to incorporate, they need guidance on structure and jurisdiction. It may be good for them to have a serious license or LLC. We see Richard Kahn also wrote before that, I only see the operating agreement attachment. Can you please information about layer 1? Thank you. And then most likely, and this is the response that he gets for it. And then, okay, JE, I need you to please advise. How it works. Now, back to this guy. You notice it's a different tweet. Same picture, different tweet. Dear Bitcoiners, you spent a decade calling XRP the banker's coin, while JE was funding the Bitcoin Foundation and coordinating with Jamie Dimon and many of the largest banks to position Bitcoin. Now, everything we read shows this is FUD. Like what? No, we didn't read anything involved with that, right? We actually read like how he got involved into that block stream and how he got involved to the Bitcoin Foundation and Steve Brock Pierce, right? And it was just like, well, no, this is completely FUD. And this is completely FUD. And they're just using the exact same image that has the word Ripple highlighted because, you know, he funded their seed fundraise thing. Put money in there. It's gonna keep going to that one. I gotta remember. It's gonna keep going to that. Alright. Okay. So, hold on a second. Give me a second. I'm gonna drink some coffee. Nice coffee. Alright. So this tweet. Who were these Bitcoin founders Epstein was speaking to? The context of this tweet seems misleading, right? And I'm going to say it here. It was Gavin Anderson, to be exact. There was another person after Gavin that was also daring Gavin, but like, I don't remember the name of the other guy. But Jay only had potential he only had contact with the other guy. Like, we know for sure he got paid at least once by him, but like that was about it. Anyways, but it was both of these was like before and after the Bitcoin Foundation first restructuring. So we can call this tweet FUD, sure. But like reality of what he's asking is based. Who? And I do know who it is. It's Gavin Anderson. I'll show you. But what does the thing say right underneath them? 2 more radical ideals for you. Okay, we have that. Hold on a second. That's right here. Let's make that bigger. Let's make it a little bit easier to read. Alright. So the 2 more radical ideals would be to form 2 new currencies. One called Shihira will be like a dollar, but every dollar has printed on it like "In God We Trust." So like the Middle East could have its own like Shihira version for internal use amongst the Muslims. In addition, a digital currency like Bitcoin could be used to form a new Shihira compliant digital currency. Very exciting. I've spoken to some of the founders of Bitcoin who are very excited. I have not heard any dates from you. Damn. Who is this Rafa Al-Asba? There is an Al-Ahmadiyya, but not actually the important party in that we're going to be talking about right now. Okay. So why was this person whom Jeffrey Epstein was talking to not as important as who were the Bitcoin founders? Well, we know Bitcoin didn't really have founders, right? So we know he's talking about the Bitcoin Foundation. It says that. Okay. So Rafa is the advisor to the Saudi royal court. And he's actually like, I know it doesn't say here, but he's actually the advisor for like I think it was like technology and sciences or something like that. But he ensures that like their government is in the know-how on a lot of this stuff. And to be honest, like when this guy took office in 2016, I think it was like within that same year, like he was like they had people in their government like sending emails and just contacting people through like at the time it was like like Twitter, and like they would just like DM you stuff and just be like, what do you would you be willing to talk to us about this? Would you be willing to send an informational deck or something like that? Like all these different weird things. And it was an opportunity, really, because like this guy, he kind of seemed to know what was going. He seemed like he understood there was more here to learn, and I think he knew there was more here to learn because of the talks he was having with Epstein. So how come that guy's not mentioned here? That's why this is misleading. But we know it's not actually Bitcoin founders whom this is a response to. It's founders of the Bitcoin Foundation. If you haven't figured out who it is, I don't know what to say. Alright. Alright, so now we're going to this one. Completely different, just another one. Jeffrey Epstein used Bitcoin spyware to monitor victims of a trafficking ring. Email reveals similar system used in Watergate scandal to launder money from the Federal Reserve. Don't I have that? Yeah. Alright. So we're just gonna look at it. So we see someone is responding to this Olsen Wendy lady. Thanks will forward to the FBI per our practice. For passing along all civilian communications regarding Epstein. Previously, Olsen Wendy messaged this person and a bunch of other people with the subject Epstein victim. And they're asking, does she not realize her name is in the email address? Oh, reference to, like, stupidity. Alright. And they're referring to this Crystal Gainey lady sending to Olsen Wendy and someone else. Well, no, that is just to Olsen Wendy, Epstein victim, which they said, I have information on Jeffrey Epstein case. I know it's been several women have been drugged, taken to an unknown location for several days at a time. These women are willing to testify. I'm extremely reluctant to tell you my personal experience. However, I'm 41, blah, 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 words, things that don't really matter. Those life events would unravel into a world of corruption that only pure, honest, accurate data could solve. A big block of information we're not allowed to see. JE and Bitcoin spyware to monitor the victims of this trafficking ring. These devices will prove to be unsafe, unregulated, and very potential to the stock exchange. Epstein used a program similar to the Watergate scandal, spy technology to launder money. All right, now, this email, most of this email seems FUD. Okay, they might have victims willing to testify. He didn't do anything similar to the Watergate scandal, spy technology. The Watergate scandal spy technology was a tape-to-tape recorder. That was the spy technology that they used to prove the Watergate scandal. Tape-to-tape recorder. Which one of the people in the Watergate scandal, one of the lawyers involved in the Watergate scandal, and the ferocities behind it, was Hillary Clinton. Before she was a Clinton. So it was Hillary something, whatever her last name was at the time. I had to look into that to find out for sure. And believe it or not, some of that came from the Epstein files. Crazy. Okay. So, some of this here is absolutely false. Doesn't make any sense. It sounds like they're like trying to pose that they have a much higher, like, the information they have is so much higher than everybody else that you have to pay attention to them. And they're like, well, we just need the FBI, we don't care. And you can see, like, this bottom part is, like, all very, like, it's almost scripted. It's just basically like, I need you to really listen to me. You really need to listen to me. And they didn't. They didn't. So, it's confusing, okay? Wait, am I in the wrong spot? Oh, okay. I did have a note that I missed. That's what it was. Okay. So, and previously when we were looking at the messages to that government official about technology for the Saudi Arabia government, it was like JE sent a message to Rafa, right? And it was just like a generic pitch about a digital coin, and the whole pitch was basically revolved around using religion to push for adoption. Um, that the Muslims themselves could have a different version, that the different version is just text on the coin that doesn't actually exist. It's just the representative image of the coin that was the pitch. Literally, that's it. And that sounds something like what rich and powerful people would actually care about. The things that don't matter. The propaganda and the belief of pushing that onto the coin, because it doesn't have a physical coin. There is no text on the coin. That's just the showboat important part. Okay. Now, back to this. So, this thing, super FUD. FUD, 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 FUD. Now, if anything, the important part here is Bitcoin spyware is very misleading, right? And this guy is using that phrase because he knows it's misleading. He's doing this on purpose. When you read the thing, it's misleading on purpose, most likely. Okay, so back to here where I just took off. Okay, so here's the thing: Bitcoin can be used to spy on people two different ways. Here's the first way. Well, they can just use the wallet one uses against them. There are many wallets that are just spyware, looking like a Bitcoin wallet. So if JE was using one of these, and he would pay the people in Bitcoin, but they didn't have a Bitcoin wallet, so JE would be like, "Oh, you got to use this one," and it would just be spyware wallet. It'd be either be one he had control of or someone he knew who had the control of it, so he could always get his funds back while tracking the people spending his funds. They keep unknown ties on them for as long as, well, JE wanted. Well, also, well, at any time people could just like not use the Bitcoin, but they also want to use that Bitcoin. So that's how the tweet is convoluted FUD. Now here's the other thing. I said two ways, right? If you master tracking a wallet, you can find the user. This is how Bitcoin can be used as spyware tech itself, which is kind of base information, really. But Bitcoin is how it is used by the user at the time of use, and nothing more, nothing less. What I'm really saying is, like, if he was using Bitcoin to spy on them, they were not handling their Bitcoin well. So they were giving up information they didn't have to give up. They were using the same wallet, same address. They were not using Bitcoin handling practices. Bitcoin handling practices, I've gone over this before in many episodes. New wallets, constantly not even using like a lot of people nowadays mess up because they have the HD wallet system, which allows you to have one key which has a bunch of different wallets, but really you need to have a bunch of different keys. The secret here is having a load of keys. That's the secret. Okay, the more keys you have, the more anonymity you can potentially own. But it's difficult. It's always going to be difficult because it's a public thing. So, but now that one that we keep going back to, my system just kept going back to over and over. It's almost like it really wanted you to know that it was absolutely insane email about Epstein to Peter Thiel about Bitcoin 2014, LMFAO. I have notes for this one. Okay. Remember how I said JE only is interested in gaining wealth and money? Well, yeah. That's why he invests in Bitcoin related businesses. Keyword there, Bitcoin related businesses. He did this with credit systems. He did it with luxury vacations. He did this with colleges. He did this with early investment businesses and ISPs. This is the JE playbook. Find a new venture, find investors, extract wealth during the fundraisers for that new venture. Everyone but the bottom line investors, aka the poorest people putting money in during the last fundraiser event. So they're the only ones that lose. But yeah, I do not need to really go over these types of emails because we already did. And JE was investing into companies obtaining Bitcoin through these investments that would, sometimes pay out Bitcoin that JE could use for his own, will, investments, whatever. And the tweet is technically based. Technically. Because it is crazy when you look into the context. It appears there's a little agreement on what Bitcoin is. Store of intrinsic value. This has been the long-term thing. Like, Bitcoin has always been a blockchain, right? It's a database. And it's always been like this, like, where you can use database for whatever you want. You just gotta learn how to use it. It's programmable, so figure it out. And in past, I've shown in previous episodes where we can actually go in the blockchain and see people playing with the blockchain, learning how it works. Literally, like, 6 blocks into it, so an hour after it started, approximately. Okay, based. Actually based. Now, very based. Glad to get one in. All right. Epstein. Israel took control of the Bitcoin by paying the salaries of 3 of the 5 key developers. This means Israel can likely modify the code of Bitcoin and do something else, like getting alerts and emails and blockchain, blah, blah, blah. This is literally a lie to spread FUD. I'm going to scroll down and it says, the reference Israel is an MIT executive, not the country. But I have the email. And if I have the email, I have the contact. So, what's the contact? Here's the email. Alright, so the email from Jochi, we see Jochi referring to his own blog on his own website, talking about other companies, non-JE, was trying to take control of Bitcoin developers, not take control of Bitcoin. Jochi personally stepped in to help prevent that. Honestly, JE has virtually nothing to do with Bitcoin other than owning it and helping people around Bitcoin, the companies around it, get funding for seed fundraisers. That JE personally obtained wealth from doing so. At this point, we have to ask, why is Jochi always involved with JE when it comes to cryptocurrency and security technologies? Let me look at this email. Used gift funds to underwrite. This is which allowed us to move quickly and win this round. Thanks. And they're talking about seed funder. This is Jochi talking directly to JE. And he's referencing their previous message, which, again, says back in 2015, as Bitcoin and digital currencies have started to become more important, the Media Lab has launched the initiative in the space. I wrote a blog about how I think Bitcoiners, a reference to his blog, that the Bitcoin is organized currently that there are 5 core developers that are around 100 contributors to the core code. The 5 core developers, like Dennis Rivold of Linux, they decided what changes are made to the core code. One of the 5 is the lead developers, when the chief scientist is Gavin, Windmill, and Corey, an important contributing developer. We're being paid out of a non-profit organization called the Bitcoin Foundation. A few weeks ago, it blew up. One of the board members declared the foundation bankrupt. Links where that's what they said. The organization scrambled to step in and vacuum. Created the foundation and take control of the developers. Now, keep in mind, they're talking about taking control of the foundation. Who pays these 3 developers? That's who they mean by the developers. These 3 right here, Gavin, Wilmer, and Corey, who are paid through Bitcoin Foundation. We moved quickly, talking to all of the various stakeholders of the 3 developers, decided to join the Media Lab. This was a big win for us. So they joined the Media Lab to get paid from the Media Lab instead of the Bitcoin Foundation. Okay. According to the Wall Street Journal blog, it's official. More or less, MIT framed Media Lab as become the principal home and funding source for the small team of developers responsible for maintaining and improving Bitcoin Core software. Gavin Anderson, who bears the title Chief Scientist, 6-person core development team, announced Wednesday he and 2 other core developers had moved to the MIT Media Lab, ending their previous status as employees of the Bitcoin Foundation. The 3 other core developers who draw salaries from different employees will continue in their status. That's a usually fairly fast communication. Initiative is strong in support, okay, across multiple different things. Home of the IMF. So it's more information. Okay. I had Megan Farmer's colleagues from the White House, who were in charge of figuring out Bitcoin at the White House, and with POTUS on Bitcoin and their initiative. So he's doing a great job so far. So basically, they had someone in the White House to talk to them to make sure that they understood about Bitcoin all the time. So Fred and Reed on the advisory council, or reading these conversations before, have been super helpful in helping us navigate this advisory council with Jim Person. Is in the active space. So the very successful media with the General Lab Media, companies kicked off, so discussions with Stanford. So what is he really saying? Well, these 3 developers were being paid by the Bitcoin Foundation. Bitcoin Foundation said, hey, we're bankrupt. And so a bunch of people showed up to these 3 developers' doors to say, I want to pay you to continue doing what you're doing. And MIT Media Lab actually was the one that they went with. And really the reason why they went there is because the Media Lab held some kind of dinner where they got to speak. So this Dochi person's pretty fucking important. He got ties directly to the White House, right? I know. Alright, so here is the article reference that actually talks about that scenario, about the everything. This actually has the contact. This is actually Dochi's actual blogs, their real blog, like Go thing. So you're probably asking, now we can just like click bio, find out who. That, or we can just go to his Wikipedia page. Okay. You can click it. There it is. He's a venture capitalist for technology. So in other words, he uses tech firms and businesses around emerging tech to gain wealth. He has personally been on boards that regulate some of the internet in some fashion. He's been on boards and stuff that involve being able to get domain names and how all that's handled, and unfortunately, this guy is he's a real one, man. He is a real one. He's there for the money. He's also there for the tech. He's one of those guys that the tech made him the money, so the money is second, but the tech is first. And he's talking to a guy, J.E., where it's all about the money. The tech made him money, so it's all about the money. Hugely different perspectives. Do I have notes on this? It's on the next one. Another topic I noticed, but the tweet got lost on my end. People were talking about Brock Pierce and Jay knowing each other. And we've already seen Brock Pierce mentioned, right? So earlier we mentioned Brock Pierce was one of the people involved in wealth extraction from seed funders for the Bitcoin-related businesses like Blockstream. Actually, I said that wrong. Not Blockstream. The Bitcoin Foundation. That was the one Brock was, I think, personally involved with. J.E. followed Brock on LinkedIn. That's what this is. This email. Okay. So JE would get email notifications letting JE know things, and this one specifically is Brock becoming a board member of Bitcoin Foundation. And LinkedIn is recommending in the subject, congratulate Brock Pierce on the new job. Imagine that. Now, I do not know if Brock getting on the board was before or after Jochi's involvement after the whole explosion thing. I don't know. But I would assume it's, like this is probably because of Jochi's involvement. And I just can't prove it. So this does show, though, that the business relationship JE had with Jochi is somehow connected with, like, how they were, like, making that wealth off of Bitcoin. Like, this kind of just shows the important, like, they followed each other on LinkedIn. He knew the second he had that job at that place. You know what I mean? Like, he knew the second he had an eye in that business, that Bitcoin Foundation business, he was like, all right, bro, we got one. We got one. Like, I need to get rid of some people. Okay. Now, this is an AI conversation. I get stuff like this sent to me actually more often than I'd like to admit. Probably most from, like, my mom. And, like, because my dad doesn't use AI. But yeah, I think probably most from, like, my mom. Maybe my cousin or something. But I get, like, a ton of these. And most time people just kind of want me to see proof of something, right? They're like, look at this proof that the AI gave me. And oftentimes, my response is basically an article that just kind of disproves the statement. And often is I get the article where the AI guy gives its proof. This is actually really common. Like, I just basically go into here, and when you go down to the end of the thing, it always gives you proof. Right here, I can click it and get it, right? I'm not going to do it because it's going to fuck up what I'm doing right now. But you can do that and you get it, whatever. A lot of times I'll just send them that article and highlight the section, screenshot it, and send it to them, and they'll be like, I'll be like, look, it's not true. Okay. So, super common to click the resources an AI gives you, read how it picked that data, and to formulate a response based on the questions you give them. Okay, so for the example, I need to first read this prompt, which says, agree. Finally, and this is super important too, if they do create a backdoor and it does get public, then they can either fix it or split the chain or both. Trust me, neither Elon or the US or Bezos or whomever wants to put in tons of money into Bitcoin. They knew anyone possibly had a backdoor. Plus, all value would evaporate instantly. And they do need a decentralized, secure, global, interplanetary chain of some kind. Okay. So we are seeing the AI. Alright, so if we scroll down, here's a look. We'll see that the AI is actually giving examples of stuff that if there was code in Bitcoin like described, then it would create an agreeable response, right? It's like it's purposely showing information that would be an agreeable response. Okay. None of this though is true. It's completely speculative response because the AI was set up to respond positively. Agree? Question mark. Like that sets up. I want you to agree. And the question is set up for a given response. Now, the reason why asking it to agree, question mark, sets it up for agree, even if you was to say disagree, question mark, it sets it up for an agreement. Okay? And if you want it to disagree with you, I'm going to have to say this is very convoluted. If you ask the AI to disagree with you, with a disagree question mark, you start off with that, or you have that as like its own thing, like it becomes a goal, basically, then the AI will agree with you by disagreeing. And a lot of times, the only disagreement will just be the word, I disagree. And then it will be a largely agreeable statement, and then a perspective on how that is a disagreement. For example, here we have, I largely agree with your reasoning, and then a statement that actually doesn't agree, but it's done in an agreement manner under the context of falsities given by the prompter. So the proof is the proof is some of the key terms in the prompter's question to the AI is directly used in the in the reflection in the response. It's used as reflection in the response. So it's using specific terms like evaporated and things like that, value evaporation. It's using that as reflection, and that actually shows that the AI is spinning a narrative. This directly shows it's creating a narrative story for the user. Also, the first line the AI gives proves the actual AI finds disagreements. The statement largely agree. Largely agree is a disagreement. For example, I largely agree and I mostly disagree are the exact same statement. There is both an agreement and a disagreement in both statements. We can argue over which has more of which, but in context, both could be anywhere from 2% to 49%, i.e., both could agree or disagree anywhere between 2% and 49%. So both statements are equal. Just one is set in a positive light, one is set in a negative light. That's it. I'm not reading it because everything the AI says here is actually fake. It's false. It's under the context that if this was there, then this would happen because of this. And the part they agree is no serious long-term investor wants to touch Bitcoin if there's a backdoor, even plausible. That's the only part it agrees with. It gives you all of this to just simply have this one thing to say. And none of this is really true. Alright. It says by dropping the Epstein files and tarnishing Bitcoin, if done on purpose with nefarious reasons, the powers that want to be have blah, 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 blah. Agreed. Keep in mind here, this wannabe, super important word. Wannabe in American phrasing means something different than the global phrasing. In America, saying wannabe is the same as saying a poser. But wannabe in other countries, pretty much anywhere not in America, and maybe not also not in Mexico, so I think Mexico does wannabe as poser too sometimes. I say that meaning like loosely, so you have to translate the word, and they have similar phrasing for similar words. That they use a word that we would say is wannabe, and they would say, yeah, sure, those words mean the same. And then I would go poser, and they would say, yeah, those words mean the same. It'd be the same word on their end, but two words on our end. See what I mean? Okay. But everywhere else in the country, like in the world, the global states, wannabe is a position. It's a position in achieving your goal. I want to be. Wannabe stands for want to be. That's super important because AI doesn't know that. And AI refers to wannabe in here as like a title of a person because it doesn't actually understand why wannabe is used because it would be going through the American context of poser, the posers, and so some of the stuff down here is very confusing because the context in the phrasement by dropping the Epstein files and tarnishing Bitcoin. So the person has already stated something that now the AI has to consider fact. It's not fact. But the way the AI works is if I say the sky is red, now I need a picture to represent the sky. It needs to be able to say that the sky is red as a fact in order to draw the red sky, whatever. Like, it has to be able to make these, like, personalized adjustments for your output. So when you're conversating with AI, you can't really ask it questions that have any amount of perspective. You need to be asking questions. You need to just be like, break down, blah, 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 and stuff like that. But the problem is, anytime you talk to AI is now designed to be personalized. So it will forever slowly personalize every output for you as long as it knows you are you. So, and it can know you are you even if you're not signed in. It's creepy. Then it's saying, now, dropping the obscene files and tarnishing Bitcoin, if that is done on purpose with nefarious reasons. So now those are fact to the AI. The powers that want to be have get retail out, effort price, blah, blah, blah. Agreed? Question mark. Okay, you can never ask AI agreed, question mark, or disagree, question mark. You cannot. You can just ask it for a breakdown. I don't think I can be more specific than that. When you ask it to agree or disagree, it has no ability to think. It has no ability to comprehend the possibility of agreement with perspective. You could say, is 5 foot 3 foot? Do you agree or disagree? And it will probably agree. Yeah, 3 foot is 5 foot. Because you told it was. Now, if you say, I need to compare the difference between 3 foot and 5 foot, it'll be like 2 foot. See? If this person was to say, what might cause these events to happen because the Epstein files were dropped? And then you list, not with numbers, but with bullets, get retail out, effort price. When you use numbers, AI says, that's a goal. And it becomes fact. And it has to complete that goal. So then it ensures it gets referenced. Okay. And even if we actually read this, yes, I can see where you're coming from with this theory. With this theory. So the AI has already disagreed. It's already disagreed with you, and you didn't even notice. It's a spicy take on the latest Epstein file drops. Could be weaponized in a broader power play. It is being used that way. It's that's the thing. This is the reason why someone sent me this. The Epstein files are being used against Bitcoin as a power play. It actually is. Let's break it down, point by point, because they give points. I'll agree where it tracks. The evidence and pushback, where it veers into pure speculation. But overall, your farming holds water as plausible narrative warfare angle, especially given. So, really, the AI is disagreeing with this person, but it cannot actually say, I disagree with you, bro. You can prompt it in a manner to where it has the ability to make that phrasement. But the second you start asking for information on top of that phrasement, it's going to be very against itself. I agree. I see where you're coming with this theory. This is a plausible plausible angle. It sets perspective somewhere in here. Okay, and it even says that it might just cause a market knee-jerk reaction, right? Okay, right. So, all right. Now I have a thing here. Let me see if I read all my notes because it says here, do not actually go over it. I want to go over it so bad, but I can't because it's just pointless. And if we look at overall agreed on the core premise. If nefarious, this feels engineered FUD to manipulate Bitcoin's trajectory. No hard proof. The files could just be overdue transparency. the market crash, community backlash, and selective revelations scream opportunity. I hate to be honest. This bit right here, this very last bit, it's engineered. It's an engineered response. It's something that is automatically going to get put in there in some manner. It might not be the exact same way. So yeah, it's got the old line thing right there, and then it's got this thing right here. Okay. So AI puts those things there because those three dashes or the three little hyphens, which makes a dash hyphen. Some people call it some weird ass name. I don't know what the actual official English term for it is. Right there, files could just be overdue transparency. That's also an engineered response. The reason why I put it in between those two things is it's like I need you to. It's basically the same as putting a comma on both sides, and you're saying this sentence could be said without this phrase. Okay, but it having the the M dash before and after the phrase tells me that's an absolute engineered statement because it doesn't actually put it before and after a phrase. It puts before a phrase, which then tells me the thing at the end is also an engineered statement, which also tells me if we go back up, you see this M dash all throughout this response. Normally, the M dash is only used to point out something very vital that is either completely different than what you're talking about or a constructed response that it has to give you. So then you're probably thinking, does that mean all of the stuff at the back is a structured response? No, because it's the beginning, it's the thing at the front. And if we go through here, the files pane I've seen it's at the front, the engineered response. Here we go. Here's one. The back, engineered response. Central banks irregulars. This is actually like within a thing. So this is love that phrasing. So this is saying that this statement that says love that phrasing. Okay, this is an engineered response. It might they're not exactly always like this. What they could also say is something like I've never heard that. Oh, I haven't heard this phrase before. Is another way it might be said or whatever, and then it gives you information about that, and it's asking for context because it doesn't understand what the fuck powers that wannabe means because in America, wannabe means something different. And so that doesn't make sense. It's basically the AI sees powers that pose. The posers with power is the quickest way to say that. So AI is probably seeing powers that wannabe as posers with power. That does not make sense to it, right? And it's asking who these people are because it's assuming wannabe is a formal noun because it's capitalized, doesn't meet the context of the definition, and it doesn't meet any amount of context from the definition possibility, even like a Urban Dictionary possibility, in the way it was used. Okay, so it's super important. Like here it says totally agree, and then this other stuff in the front, or this right here, if it's classic shakeout playbook. Believe it or not, the engineering response is totally agree because it's at the front. It really is. It's M dash. It gets used by the AI. It's engineered to be used by the AI. So like when the engineers, like when you work with AI and you're doing these things, it's hard to tell when responses are proper or correctly responded or they're following the rules that you put in. And so sometimes you'll see AI companies say stuff like, "Oh, we believe everything is sentient," and what they're really saying is, we've gotten to a point where we can no longer tell when the AI makes shit up or is being legit because it's no longer using specialized context codes to inform us on things. That's really what they're saying. Okay. So this says, how does this compare to my argument speculation? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so he's asking for more information, the powers that want to be, blah, blah, blah. So remember the Brock connections that are true as stated? You know, Brock, like, and I think I, third, right? Yeah, yeah. So it's just posted them. Okay. So remember the Brock connections I said, right? So Brock was used to help JE get specific deals investments, and Brock used J. But why do I feel like that is not the right spot for this conversation? There it is. There it is. I wanted to make sure I was in the right spot. All right. Sorry. So JE helped. Basically, Brock helped or used JE to help with his legal troubles. Oh, let me read that whole thing in. Brock connections are true as stated here. Brock was used to help JE get specific deals and investments, while Brock used JE. JE used Brock for specific deals and investments. Brock used JE to get help with his legal troubles. Okay, scroll down to the next one. The tether ties are misleading at best because JE just involved himself to get enriched from the venture funds, and he did receive things perhaps like tether as payment. But JE has no real ties to tether, only a financial payout. I think it's safe to say we have basically already disproven the broad implications of some of the stuff, like this part right here. The broad implications, we've already disproved most of this one. I don't think I really need to talk about it. Um, so we already showed, like here when I'm on this one, right? Explore Epstein's blockchain funding. So we already showed Epstein used people to invest in business around Bitcoin and crypto and the financial services companies they provide, right? Um, so it does seem that Coinbase investment into the seed fund, the third fundraiser, by the way, so well into after Coinbase had value and wealth, was made with Brock. And maybe just like that time when JE invested in the blockchain, it was actually Jochi invested as JE plus Jochi. So that is most likely what was going on here. JE has the knowledge to help Brock, so Brock helps JE with investments as a team investment. You know, they both go in. Like Brock puts the money in and says it's two people, right? So then the two people get individualized payouts, but only one, inputs wealth. Super important. Okay, and we even disproved some of the key points here, but they actually basically just they're like saying it in a weird way, but they actually say everything I just said. Like they just basically say, yeah, Brock was used to make investment. All right. Now here's the problem many people have. They're saying statements that are subjective 100%. For example, this prompt says, if you take all of the above and potentially any other criticisms about Bitcoin. So that's just one part and already opens the door to falsities or false data or even poison information. And it can be done as needed information too, just because it is against Bitcoin. So what I'm saying is, by the way of saying that phrase, like, did I skip it? I, sorry, I forgot to skip the other prompt. My bad. My bad. Okay, let me say this again. Um, so the statement, if you take all the above potential and any other criticisms about Bitcoin, um, that opens up the door to false data, poison data, and all this can be done as considered needed information just because it is against Bitcoin. And it will disregard legit data posed or poised as useless information because it agrees with Bitcoin. But also, this is just a trap start. It implies all the data above this prompt is correct. And actually, when really only the general statements are correct, and mostly is speculative quotes given from speculative sources like Twitter posts and, you know, not even given the JE files directly as proofs, which it should be able to do. Instead, articles and tweets about JE files themselves, even if that's false, are cited. So I will not even read what AI gives for a lot of the stuff because it's just said it's falsities. Hold on, I got more. It says, I will not read what the AI is given to the user at this point because it is a 100% personalized AI slot designed to entertain the user. Everything in this that I'm highlighting right now is AI slot designed to entertain reader. That's it. But that's what this statement right here is all about. So now, on this one, explore Bitcoin mining decentralization metrics. So now the AI gives metrics that are years old. Some of the stuff is like actually really old. All right, and it says it's up to date. It's very, very fresh, is what it says, right? But we went over the pool's live data like 1 or 2 episodes ago. And no, this isn't how the market share data we saw. So this data is directly sourced from an article that does not give live graphs or anything. So most likely the data sourced is a lie or made to be misleading where it's sourced from. All right, so I hate it when people reference the Nakamoto coefficient because that was a personal metric someone used that has no real value in a blockchain once a blockchain has hit enough constant hash rate to be considered government proof. When the Nakamoto coefficient was even first talked about publicly, it was only like 5 other blockchain databases in total. And only like one of those had ever had any issues with takeover. So the Nakamoto coefficient was based on that one set of data, which wasn't even accurate by mid-year 2012. It has the Nakamoto coefficient has not been accurate or sufficient way to do any amount of anything for determining any metric about blockchain since 2012. Stop fucking using it, please. The reason why I hate it is because it does not work. Okay? Once your mining gets up to a certain point, the coefficient no longer fucking matters. Because the way Bitcoin's mining is designed, it is the miners and the hash rate that has to both be over 51%. And because the way it's set up, you could have 99% of the miners, 99% of the hash rate, and you still might not get every block. Think about that. You could have 99.9% of all the hash rate in the world. You could have 99.9% of all the miners in the world. And that less than 1% is still going to randomly get blocks before and after you and in between you, even though you have basically the entirety of the hash rate. Because Bitcoin has multiple layers of protection. And we've gone over this in multiple different episodes. I'll give you links for some of those later, like eventually. But I'm not going to directly reference them completely. We got hours and hours and hours of footage of me directly explaining this in a lot better detail. You don't need to hear it again. You just need to know Nakamoto coefficient. Stop using it. It's been inaccurate since 2012, and by about August 2012, to be dead honest. Okay. So now the geographical distribution is also inaccurate, but this is mostly. The information that is here is mostly on public companies' information with the location that are known miners. So basically, there's a bunch of public companies that are known miners that have their known location stated. That's really what this is actually giving you. That's all this really is. So this is completely inaccurate because it's not actual. It's just the known miners. Okay. Now, there was a time when people thought 70 to 90% of all the mining was done in China. And then China banned mining. Okay? And the hash rate had about a 14% decrease. And it took time to actually get to 40% decrease. So the immediate response from China banning mining was 14% decrease. But over time became 40% decrease over months and months and months and months. Because, more things were happening. People would mine even if they weren't supposed to. But the other reason why it did this is because people started changing their VPN node location. That's the other thing they did. So that's the thing. When you're talking about geographical mining, well, the mining and the node data, like, it's just hearsay because they could always be going through a VPN that instantly changes where they're mining from. Only when a country has a firewall can a VPN be stopped or blocked. Everything else after this, whatever, is pure entertainment speculation. But for the most part, it says Bitcoin mining is still functionally decentralized. This is an engineered response. And if we look, it has an engineered response. Not right here in the middle. See the resilient through attacks, blah, 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 blah. That's engineered response. So is this. But metrics show room for improvement. That, too, is an engineered response. All of this entire first sentence is an engineered response. Okay. All right. Now that we've gone over that, I mean, there's some actual context there and stuff, but I really wanted to give you guys more information about how to talk to AIs, because right now people are just talking to AI like they're regular people. AI is not a person. AI doesn't think. AI doesn't have the ability to think. When it says AI is thinking, it is literally leveraging data and doing math. I know it doesn't seem like it when it's doing web searches and stuff. It's using math to do that. When it's actually looking through systems and looking and see what words are on a page, it's using math to do that. I don't go 2 + 2 = the sky is blue, but an AI can, because it does. All right. Another AI conversation, this time with a decent start. Hey, Grok, there's a lot of stuff on Bitcoin and other cryptos in the Epstein files. Could you run through it, organize it, add some important highlights, and assess how likely or unlikely it is Epstein or people connected to Epstein created Bitcoin, or were under the influence of him and compromised or practiced some way? And you use scores from 1 to 10 if you need to. Much better start. Much better. Still, I'm not happy with it. Should go, this is how it should say. Boy, there's a lot of stuff on Bitcoin and other cryptos in the Epstein files. Could you run through it and organize it for me? Add important highlights. Again, man, first sentence is oi. I mean, you need to introduce to the Grok, right? You don't have to say hey Grok, whatever. I always say oi yo. That's how I always talk to the AI. And believe it or not, when someone else talks to the AI that I talk to, if they don't start with oi yo, it will automatically assume it's not me, because it's been trained to. Okay, so this person probably says hey Grok often. They're probably like me and they go oi yo, right? Okay. So it should say there's a lot of stuff on Bitcoin and other cryptos in the Epstein files. Organize it. Add important context and highlight for me. And period. Put a period there. Boop. That's the end of that sentence. Okay? Next sentence. Assess likelihood Epstein and people around Epstein that are in the Epstein files were connected to creating Bitcoin or had influence in the creation of Bitcoin. Period. Next question. Assess the likelihood Epstein or people around Epstein in the Epstein files potentially compromised Bitcoin in some way. Period. Please use scores 1 to 10 to assist in helping me understand your results. That's what it should say. Okay. The reason why this is slightly different is this person is putting perspective inside their question and they don't even realize it. You have to separate things and you have to create multiple different, sentences and things like that instead of this big long run on. Okay. Now I actually have notes on this. So this AI conversation, again, decent start. This does show that JE knew something about conspiracy theorists that do not. JE went to MIT and got in on the digital center of technology because, and I believe, like in 2011, 2012, Bitcoin gained an MIT license. All right, so I'm going to say that again. This AI conversation, it has a decent start, and in outputs does show that JE did know something that conspiracy theorists did not know. JE directly contacted or went to MIT to get in on what was known as the Digital Center of Technology at the time. I do believe in 2011 or 2012 is when Bitcoin actually went with an MIT license, which was after it was released to the public coders who were at the time were actually just creating, fixes for the code and submitting it in and fixing the damn code. Like they were just doing it. Okay. So that's about the time that it got the MIT license. All right. Now it could have, I believe it had no license before that, just unlicensed. But I could be wrong. It could have had like an unregistered license that I just don't remember. Doesn't matter though. It only matters that it has an MIT now, right? So JE knew the license could control the tech. And he was seemingly trying to help regulators regulate the technology through MIT. That's actually what he was doing at MIT. Yes, I have one. He was actually involved in MIT to get to help regulators regulate technology as it was coming out, because it's coming out so much faster than what the government can really handle. So to be honest, the conversation's best information is over the MIT plus JE, and which I find really funny, JE plus MIT, when you put those two together, it's like MIT or GMIT, which kind of sounds like MIT's, it kind of sounds like Jitsi. And if you say it just right, it also kind of sounds like Jitsi Meat, which is odd because that's a completely different FOSS system of doing stuff, like Zoom. Okay. So you guys can go through here. This one's a lot better, and the way it was set up and stuff, so the output's much better. I don't really highly recommend. I recommend you going to the very bottom and clicking these little buttons down here to see that most of the stuff comes from people's posts. So, careful. Okay. Alright. According to all the new data regarding Epstein files, when did Epstein first get involved in Bitcoin as we know it? 2011. Alright, Ermi Taaki. That was the other person I couldn't remember. Yeah. And Gavin Anderson, which came through Jason Calacanis. Long time since I've seen that name. That's true. And then it changed with Brock Pierce. It got different. And as far as we know, there is no direct evidence that Epstein personally owned any Bitcoin. From my understanding, all the Bitcoin Epstein claims to use in files and such actually comes from Chachi. I can't fully prove that, but it comes from one of the Chachi investment holding companies or whatever. Like, that's the creepy part. Alright, so I'm going to give you guys this. Now. The good stuff. Going right back to it. Okay. So, keep in mind, this is still all connected to the same construct. So, we're asking questions like, when did Jay first get involved in Bitcoin? Why? We just read a thing that said, oh, JE directly got a hold of these two guys through some other investment person, right, to pay them. Okay? JE didn't actually pay them. JE doesn't put money in. It's something I've been learning through all of his emails and stuff. JE don't put money in. Right? even when Jochi was doing something, they got into a fundraiser really quickly, or a seed fund really quick in order to win the round or whatever. Um, he used money that was gifted to him. He didn't even use his own money. Like when people gift money to these people, they put that money off to the side and it becomes its own special bankroll of things. So, like you can handle that without like red tape, basically. Okay. So now you're kind of caught up a little bit. This is a thread chain from Ruben to Brian Bishop, another important figure. Okay. Because keep in mind, I said a lot of this shows that JE got into MIT to use it for regulating technology. That does include Bitcoin. Yeah. So even here, Bishop, all the way back in 2015, is trying to push the propaganda currency, not database. We highlighted something that mentioned this earlier, a long time ago earlier in this thing. So, if you're paying attention, it's back. Because one of the biggest points of Bitcoin is it's not actually currency, and it never was one. But the vehicle, Bitcoin is the vehicle in which digital currency can exist to you. It can exist with it. Bitcoin is a database first, and a monetized method as a reward system is for the adoption. The currency is a reward system to create adoption. You can read the entire thing, which was like a private feedback loop to add into the open letter that was given. Okay, hold on, I'm make sure I'm reading that right. This was a feedback loop to get information to add into an open letter that would be given. Like it's already been given by now, but at the time this was written, had not been given yet. So it's about like a year or so later it was given to him. But looking through this, people were using like possible regulations to strong arm others into agreeing to the terms of, oh no, you don't understand. Like we need it to be this one thing, and I'll read part of it. Hold on. All right. So, they were strong. It was a strong man. It was a strong arm conversation. And at the very bottom, this state started with Brian only CC'd into existing thread among JE and Jochi. Okay, so now you know. Let me actually go into it. Let's go to the bottom. Hi, Jeffrey. Enjoy. Enjoy. Brian CC'd in doing some work looking on how the CFTC is trying to regulate Bitcoin options trading. Notice it's not about regulating Bitcoin. It's regulating the options trading. Note see his note. Here's his note. CFTC making a decision, blah, blah, blah. To the end, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And they're doing an open letter to the developer cores. Core developers. What do you think of the letter? Is Brian right for asking for regulation? Is there advantages for trying to stay unregulated? Sorry about that. Like, personally, he's just asking for help. Like, hey, what do you think? He's asking for advisory information. Both Jeffrey and Joy as a whole. It's really important. Okay. Make sure you have this. This is super important. And we'll go to that website. We're going to go to the website. It's in his signature. I checked it out. Okay. Here's the next part. We're going to the top. So then, Brian Bishop sends something to the chain, which has everyone CC'd into it. Jeremy, thank you for the email. Joy, always a pleasure to run into you with every contact. So that means that this person noticed Joy, all that stuff. And it is nice to meet you, Jeffrey. So they didn't know each other before this. I noticed your Wikipedia article, and you and I share Ben Goldson in common. Why would you check out someone's Wikipedia article to see what people you know? Crazy. Wasn't expecting to see him around these parts. He and I share many motivations and beliefs about the future. That's not about money. That's not about money. So the open letter that Jeremy mentions is still in progress, but we've drafted some explanatory text that we've going to be sending, blah, blah, blah. Please consider this explanatory text to be private. But I would absolutely love to hear your feedback on we approach this. As we're near the end, it's very exciting. The explanatory email follows, blah, blah, blah. Keep it confidential. Alright, so I'm writing you, blah, blah, blah. Bitcoin continue to grow, blah, blah, blah. So they're talking about how, like, CFTC wants to do this stuff, and Ledger X, and blah, blah, blah. And, okay. Here's that website. So you're telling me this Brian guy, whoever this Brian guy is, Brian Bishop. Brian Bishop has a website. This is all on the website. Hello. And if you inspect this website, it's not even a proper website. It's not even a proper website. Even says down here at the bottom, this page is in course mode. Page layout might be impacted. For standard mode use doc type HTML at the top. Yeah, you gotta define it as an actual file first. Yes. This is just simple copy pasta code from like W3 schools. But at least his server is running. It's better than mine. Mine's not running. So goddamn. Keep in mind this was sent what? 2015, and he still has this server running this to this day. What? Here is a discussion plan for that was sent to JE from 2014, and it highlights how big players in the background actually plan things as if they were like, hold on, as if they are guaranteed. Okay, they're planning things as if they're guaranteed, which is where a ton of tinfoil hat theories come up with these ideals that like basically elites are planning everything in their own home office, because kind of are. Now we could review this entire thing. It's pretty clear. These things are fairly foreseen of what would happen based on the credit system. Even swaps are on here, which some people have won legal suits and cases on that they invented the technology behind swaps, like pools. And yet here, years prior, people knew swaps would happen. Because in 2014, the BTC Feathercoin pool for equal share swapping already began. And the CFTC already put definitions to swaps by this time, after that BTC Feathercoin pool in 2014. Citations in the PDF, by the way. Citations in this PDF. Alright, so scroll down to page 20. I was scrolling, I still didn't get down far enough. Yep. Alright. Options on commodities fall within the definition of swap under the CEA. Accordingly, options are generally regulated as swaps. However, just the CTFC regulation does not reach forward based largely on their physical delivery of commodities. Options that entail physical delivery are likewise exempt from the CTFC regulation, but if they are only traded between entities that include financially sophisticated parties and commercial users. That's actually kind of important. Physical delivery is exempt from regulation, but only if done between entities that are financially sophisticated and commercial. Now, that just tells you right there that there are ways to go around CFTC regulations for businesses. Physical, wow. Now it makes sense why everyone wants to have a meetup in private rooms so they can, bypass CTFC regulations. Accordingly, Bitcoin options used by qualifying entities, and basically this entire thing knew people were doing that. They knew that they were doing meetups to actually handle CTFC regulation bypassing. They knew it. because they would likely be structured to involve physical delivery. Like, this is what this is saying. Like, they know it's going to happen. This means that between a merchant and another sophisticated party, Bitcoin options being offered on, like, Deribit would not be regulated as swaps because they are structured to result in physical delivery of Bitcoins if exercised by the option holder. Now, that, in this case, is a digital physical delivery. So they're like literally saying, like we know it's going to be physical delivery. One of the reasons why we know it's going to be physical delivery is someone's figured out a digital version of physical delivery. Ordinary individuals would be prohibited from using this. However, unless registered to compiled with the rules and regulations which was open to retail investors, like a futures exchange. This is because in the hands of the ordinary investors, the Bitcoin option would be viewed as swap. However, swaps are not permitted to be offered to such investors because they do not qualify as eligible contract participants. Finally, a Bitcoin catalyzed as foreign exchange by the TFC and offered to retail investors, any foreign exchange futures, options, and options on futures would require the retail investor's counterpart to register as futures commission merchant or a retail forex dealer. Now, there was a time where people really thought Bitcoin was going to be considered the next forex. I mean, it kind of is, but I mean, like, for real, this is the reason why people thought, like, there was a point where government was looking at calling it a forex. Like, oh yeah, you deal with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Oh yeah, that's forex now. Got really close to happening. Okay. This is kind of like a side venture, right? We're about to do. It just okay, like the thing I read just now is an actual email directly sent to Jane, right? And it's actually a discussion thing that actually ended up happening in real life a year or two later. Well, it's 2014, it's about 3 years later. How did he get it? Well, he got it from stuff like this. He wasn't actually like directly involved in that shit. Like, here is an email from someone named Gregory Brown. It's Gregory Brown. Look at all the attachments. Summarized Melt in Antarctica, PDF. Fastest way to speedy networks, PDF. National broadband plan exclusive summary, PDF. Drug makers use safe rules to block generics, quiet Thomas, blah, blah, blah. And then, so there are a bunch of PDFs, a bunch of articles, basically, right? And he's writing, dear friend, and blah, blah, blah. This looks like it's to this person, right? Like, oh my gosh, I know you, but look at us. If you read this information, you're looking through this, like, you're going to realize this is not written to someone who knows someone. This is like being ambiguously written to just the reader. This is what we called an email. I have the actual word written down. I used to say this word all the fucking time. Like, we used to call them chainmail and all this other stuff. Like, people even at one time would physically do this. Like, people would physically write these out, have them printed out, and physically mail them all over the place. And then you could respond or whatever, and then you would get that regularly. And it was a newsletter. So this was an email chain newsletter, like where, like, you sign up for it and it's sent. It's like an RSS feed system, and that's kind of important. JE gets tons of RSS feeds quite often, which is like the early and easy way to get automated systems online. But this Greg Brown's weekend reading stuff, it really is just a newsletter. JE would get this, as odd as it is, as crazy, really odd, but whom is it? Like, I have an idea, but like, what the fuck? Like, it's gonna make sense here in a second. Okay. Here's another one. And one of these PDFs is marked out. There's a reason. Like, there's important context in here about specific people, we're not allowed to know whom that is. Should tell you right there, this person's mentioning people who are involved with Epstein in some way, and sometimes not in the best of light. This is an RSS feed Epstein was getting to keep tabs on somebody he knew. Now, he might not personally know them, but this is one way he kept tabs on somebody. Subscribe to their RSS. Subscribe to their newsletter. Let them tell you what they're doing directly. Some of this is a little bit strange. He's talking about how like this person earned success. He remembered the Psychic Friends Network infomercials. And so, what up, Dim Cat? Glad you joined in, Brosa. Thank you for showing up. And so, like, he was just kind of talking about how, like, you know, really good, and he made a lot of money because of it, and he's showing you the music and talking about how, like, it, you know, how it was done. So it's like important context of how to handle like money, revenue, business from something you produce, something ambiguously like music. Okay. So whom is this person, right? Well, based on some investigations, it's possible this person, which I'm not showing their face, I'm not showing, trying not to show their face. There's possibility it's this person, which problem here is I don't think it is this person. Okay, this person was most likely still in college when those email newsletters were being sent out, and when you read those emails, newsletter things, they're like from someone who's already aging. Like you can tell just the way it's written, it's an aging individual, like discussing things in their mind on the text editor. So I don't think it's this person, which is why I'm not showing their face. I don't think it's them. So eventually I came across this one. This one has pictures. And some of these do have pictures, okay? Every so often he talks about, like, oh, I was busy and whatever, so, like, here's some pictures instead of articles. Okay? So this one goes all the way back to 2012. This one was pushed back. 2012. And music offerings and rare old photographs he owned. These are his personal photographs. Okay. Something special coming from this. We can go through, we can look. Okay, so there's not a whole lot. Look at the factual quote. Representative Stephen LaTroy of Ohio, one of the few moderate Republicans left in the House, said on Tuesday he couldn't take it anymore and would not seek re-election after 9 terms. There are people on the right and on the left who think that if you compromise, you're a coward, you're a facilitator, you're an appeaser. He said, adding that people are more interested in fighting with each other than they are in getting the no-brainers done in governing. Ouch. That actually means that, like, he's saying more people are fighting each other instead of being involved with the people who are basically just following along and are governing. And then photos. So, obviously the photos aren't going to be here, right? Okay. Important clues is it gives us, like, file name information. Or gives us like, an ID number and some kind of app. Okay? It gives us information. It gives us the name. It gives us this stuff right here, too. So, this information right here at the front, this CAAJ, not as important. Okay? And then this information down here, super important. So, this ID has something to do with the image itself. Like, this ID is like the image plus the title as a combined hash. Okay, so which means this stuff can eventually be found again. Okay? And I believe the SAAJ is like, it's kind of like a witness signature type thing. That might even be information about decoding or some destructuring or something like that. Or it might just be the node that was involved in the process. Okay. So some of these are insanely some of these involve people directly involved in the Epstein. Some of these are old, really old. And not all of them. There it is. That's who Gregory Brown is. So, still doesn't tell you a whole lot, does it? Like, someone was like, some stuff I came across pointing that this guy is potentially that Gregory Brown. I'm not saying it is, potentially. Like, this guy had like a book or something, and in this book, like, this is actually him talking about the book, basically. In that book, some of the pictures and some of the CIDs match whatever when you put the picture with whatever. So they're saying, oh, like, yeah, this is the guy, whatever. There's this guy too, right? Really, like, we can see if we really wanted to, we would look this up, right? Global cast partners, blah blah blah. One of the important things was it had to do with music. Music. Why does that have to do with Jeffrey Epstein? One of his first ventures was directly. It was a music company, production company, or whatever. Like, he was directly involved in music. So this is actually someone he most likely known for a very long time that he was keeping ties on by looking at their newsletters. And he's a CEO for a company that directly involved in a venture that he was directly involved with. They were both involved in the same venture, music production, music publication. Okay? Alright. But this shows that, like, basically, even in 2012, like, JE has this, like, mind virus thought process thing, like, hey, um, people are out to get us, people are doing this, people are, like, he's always had these, like, weird ass scenarios of emails and situations, and I really wanted to show you that, like, his habits never changed. He kept the same habits all the time for decades. That's really what I wanted to show you there. But I always think it's strange. That's why he was getting the stuff from Brock. That's why he gets the notifications from every place. That's why he gets these weird ass emails. It's one of the ways he keeps tracks of people. Okay. I couldn't have done today's episode without this right here. This was the thing that got me more stuff faster than anything else. I really do appreciate the Department of Justice actually having something like this. I need to do some more stuff like this. I need more disclosure about this. I want to see a CIA search file system for all of the publicly released CIA files and stuff like that. Would love something like that. Need it. Okay. We started today with Simon Dixon, right? We started today saying truth. Although people try often to take over Bitcoin, none have actually done so. And then we started looking at tweets about the Epstein files, and almost all of them were twisting what words and terms could be found in a match to match a narrative. Like, they're twisting the words just to match a narrative. And I was able to use JE files themselves to disprove most of those tweets. I didn't handpick these tweets. And 90% of the tweets were actually just provided by other people sending them to me. Because they were concerned because of what was said in the tweet. The rest of, the less 10% were just found from searching Epstein on Twitter. Simple. A couple weeks ago, when all of this was still a little bit more hot, too, by the way, is when I was doing that research for those links and stuff. So this showed that, like, JE was concerned about money, not taking over anything. And almost never does JE actually input money into investments. Many people rely on JE to be an advisor. And to be honest, there are many of these types of people, many advisors out there in the world. We saw, like, a lot of the people he spoke to directly, even people he didn't trust. Well, they were advisors and seed funders. They raised money for companies. and they were advisors for governments, companies, businesses, everything, organizations, you name it, they were doing it. So he involved himself directly in this. Now, you can look back, like for example, when I was using my Reactor 3D Twitter handle, that r.3d account was like a tech advisory account. I used to often give tech advice through public tweets and also through DM. And I constantly would get stuff in return. I used to constantly do videos on the stuff I would get from these companies. And for me, I was very transparent about it, but not everybody is. And as you can see, the people who were not transparent about it tend to get better deals. So I used to get technology and access to information ahead of time because of it, giving advice and things like that. And it's the easiest way to be an influencer inside of an ecosystem, directly influence the companies involved. And that's what JE was doing. Not only was he doing it, but he was doing it directly for the financial sector of things. And if you think about it, that's probably the real reason why he was in Bitcoin. He was already directly in the financials of ventures. So this is a whole new market he could be involved in, right? And we know that he wasn't actually holding the Bitcoin. Someone else was. Someone else was basically giving all of his money worth. He almost never, to be honest, like at one time I even had like bank records and statements that are in the Epstein files. And I don't think Epstein actually had a whole lot of money in any bank. I think a lot of people, like he would make calls to get things done, and then that's how things got done. He didn't put money up. He didn't ever have to. It's important that way, I guess. So once I showed that JE was an advisor for wealth and not an advisor for change, I then showed you perspectives trying to spin JE was all about change, when JE would pin himself with people whom were actually for that change. JE was a wealth extractionist. So he got with advisors for change, and it was a back scratching all over the place. Like an advisor would put JE's name in the investment hat because JE had already assisted them or helped them extract wealth previously. JE even worked with people he didn't trust, even after they dropped him from investments and fully paid him out. Or didn't fully pay him out, but still paid him out. So I helped prove JE's involvement in just about everything was knowledge exchange for wealth or money exchange for entertaining vacations. At other people's expense, by the way. And that last part wasn't even like advertised. Like they would not ever advertise you could exchange money for entertainment vacations. Like, that was kind of like a wink wink type thing. So lastly, we then finished by reviewing AI conversations. Now, I did put hefty warning and showed an interaction on or 3 that showed like you might take extra steps to when talking to AI, and take AI's information with more like a pinch of salt. Then I showed like what AI is actually saying about it, right? About Epstein files and shit. So keep in mind, there's nothing really stopping the AI companies from obtaining JE files data and training the AI with it for direct reference material, even just with the links, at least. So when AI gets stuff wrong, there is a reason. Normally because they are designed to give personalized responses, but not always. Sometimes it's something we can't see. So I showed the differences ahead of time, then looked at the AI claims to point out which were true and not true, under now the known light of the Epstein files themselves. That's why we went over the files, then over the AI stuff. Notice how the files directly say the words, but the tweets and the AI still mislead and get the direct words wrong, simply because they have a narrative or did not read the files for themselves. This is, it says for themselves in full. This is why you don't trust. You only verify. It is the way. The second you trust and do not verify, you get screwed, even if you don't realize it. So I think some of the questions people may have are like, is the Epstein files good or bad? Does JE files show fiat vulnerabilities? How does this hurt cryptocurrency? Does this scare investors? Etc., etc., etc. I think those are the most important ones that I saw floating around. So I think releasing the JE files was generally a good thing. I do believe the JE files show at least how politicians and giantly wealthy individuals abuse fundraising as ways to extract wealth from things like events. Even a gala was used to extract wealth, money, and objects like wine, but also to gain new connections to other wealthy people. I think this has hurt future IPO seed fundraisers and companies working around Bitcoin. But this doesn't actually hurt or help cryptocurrency nor Bitcoin itself. It's sorry, I just got my words mixed up. It's those making wealth from the start of a new venture for funding is whom the JE files actually hurt. Like, I don't think Brock will, well, let me say that differently. Brock Pierce most likely will either win the next election he runs for, or he'll never run for another one again. But you never really know. It's just a speculative thought, right? Because Brock has run for elections, and now we know that, well, now Brock's heavily connected with Jeffrey for abusing his chair positions to extract wealth through the investment system. Okay. So this only scares investors into companies around cryptocurrency as a whole. And that is who JE was actually poised with. The companies around it. Not the cryptocurrency or the technology itself, but the things around it. For the most part, only positive things are actually coming out of JE files, especially for Bitcoin. Many people have tried to get control of Bitcoin, either through paying the coders, just for them to leave and stop coding for Bitcoin months later. No joke. Like, these guys pay, like, okay, Epstein paid. And when I say paid, he got someone else to pay Gavin Anderson a lump sum of money. And then Gavin Anderson leaves the Bitcoin Foundation, like, months after that, and gets paid another lump sum to continue coding Bitcoin. But now it's under a completely different entity, whom then, because of that, Epstein gets involved with MIT. So Epstein pays Gavin. Motherfucker takes the money and runs because the Bitcoin Foundation no longer had money, right? Or they claimed they no longer had money. Okay? And MIT picked him up. And because of that, Epstein then went to MIT. Not before. JE files actually show Bitcoin is insanely resilient. Like, you can directly pay these guys that code the shit, and they still don't put in the shit you asked for. It's almost like paying them just pays them. It doesn't actually change what they do. Which is the point of, like, almost all the code developers for Bitcoin are independently wealthy. You paying them to do the thing, the service, is just extra money on them. They don't, like, you're basically wasting their money. And really, people are paying them because they're like, oh, if I do this, then, like, I believe I'm trying to help. And that's important. Because at the end of the day, that's actually what the Epstein files is all about. Trying to help.
Yo, did you think you know? Did you think you hold? Did you think something new? That's the goal, to see from a new degree and get the change your mind needs to find something new. Life suddenly is easy for many, but when a wall appears, sometimes up is all you see. So let 3D guide to the side, yo, where there's a door though. Just be careful on your way out, for the first step is a do-si-do. A little bit linus with something different It's almost like he's something else. And regardless of maybe, perhaps it was that missing piece you was needing. Maybe it was that simple message you was searching. Definitely it's just in different time for defraying our mental mind state, separating us from our own mental mind tank. Boom goes the blast of thought. Boom goes the last spark with part. Boom goes the mental mind tank. Don't your perspective hit on the way out. Don't let your directive stop you when you doubt. Don't let the dire detection stop you from being getting excited. So the photons are delighted. Don't hesitate so we can line up the hash rate. Let me surmise the tide, submit the rate, and reduce the fakes while we mine our major bags. Crypto technology like cryptographic money, while hashing your life into a set of QRs. It doesn't matter, cause this was 3D changes perspectives. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a new role of perspective. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a brand new perspective. Of perspective. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a brand new perspective. Thank you for